It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 776, The Gap Between Level 5 and Level 6 Civilization. Things are changing. The dead atmosphere that originally belonged to the enraged civilization command center descended on the Kepler 452 star system at this moment. In the Kepler command center, looking at the planetary fortress undergoing a violent explosion in the holographic projection, everyone seemed to be strangled by invisible hands and could not make a sound. Even Yongchang couldn't help but stop the calculation work in his hands, with a look of horror on his face. Caillou, for human civilization, is already the pinnacle of technological creation. It brings together the top technologies in almost all disciplines of the entire civilization. It is no exaggeration to say that it is a technological crystallization of human civilization, but even such a master of a 5th level civilization had no power to resist when faced with a weapon attack suspected of being a 6th level civilization. This huge gap, like a natural chasm, pressed down on Yongchang's heart like a huge stone, making his breathing a little harder. Is the gap so big, Zhao? Ziji's confused voice came from the side. This is just a space weapon, Yongchang was silent for a while and murmured in a low voice, there is no doubt about the power of space weapons, but I think the fundamental reason for such a disparity in combat power is not the power of space weapons. When Tao Yuda, who was not far away, heard this, his eyes moved slightly, and he raised his lowered head. Professor, what do you mean? Can it attack while in warp navigation? That's right. Yongchang nodded solemnly. This has almost completely changed the way civilizations fight. If the biggest difference between level 4 civilization and level 5 civilization is the grand unified theory and the practical application of the grand unified theory, that space weapon may be the gap in combat power between the 5th level civilization and the 6th level civilization. This gap is probably wider than the gap between 1st level civilization and 5th level civilization. He smiled bitterly. After all, after a war breaks out, even the stones thrown by the 1st level civilization may happen to hit the warships of the 5th level civilization, but there is almost no chance that an attack from a level 5 civilization will hit a warship from a level 6 civilization. Just imagine, after a war breaks out, the opponent does not even need to exit the warp state, maintains a warp speed of more than 100 c, and throws a space rift at us with a speed of up to 800 c. In the eyes of the other party, we are like a bug crawling slowly in the universe with various weapons on its back. No matter how powerful the weapon is, bugs are still just bugs. He turned around again and looked at the unfinished calculation process in the holographic projection behind him. Let the expedition fleet delay as much time as possible. Okay. Zhao Ziji nodded solemnly. I will let Baixuan take that flagship to wander around the territory of the Enraged Alliance. If they are not ready to fight, let the fleet go for a walk around the central star system. Yongchang was stunned, as if he had thought of something, and nodded with a strange expression. Guerrilla warfare. You and Baixuan just watch the command. By the way, remember, don't really attack the central star system, Zhao. Ziji laughed dumbly. Don't worry, you have to leave a little hope for the other party. If the other party has no worries and chooses to fight to the death, we have no means to fight against that flagship now. Enraged Alliance. As the human expedition fleet began to take action, the territory covering 100 light years around began to turmoil. The human expedition fleet, with 20 warships as a combat unit, quickly fell into pieces. Then, under Baixuan's order, 300 of the combat units galloped away in all directions. The remaining more than 100 combat units, led by the Titan mothership, fought guerrilla warfare around the central star system. They stopped and walked, firing warp missiles at the slow-moving Enraged fleet from a safe distance. Then, he waited quietly. When the enemy fleet reached the warning distance, these small-scale fleets entered the curvature state again, and opened the distance again at a speed of 100 c. Repeat, and cycle like this of course. This strength is definitely not enough point in order to allow the Enraged fleet to maintain its hatred value against itself at all times. A large number of detectors were released. These detectors quickly search for key facilities established within the territory, interstellar shipping hubs, stellar antimatter manufacturing bases, military factories. Subsequently, under Zero's planning and distribution, 300 combat groups launched attacks on their respective targets in an orderly manner. Chaos. Complete chaos. The entire Enraged alliance is in chaos, in this case. The 4th level civilization can only huddle near its home star and tremble, let alone those 3rd level civilizations, or below. Each group seems to have only 20 battleships, but those are the main battleships of the 5th level civilization. Without any scruples, these 20 warships can completely solve a complete 4th level civilization in a very short time. Just turn on the curvature engine and head directly to the capital of the civilization, and that's it. As for the Enraged civilization, it can only watch its territory being destroyed step by step, and then expel the human fleet near the central star system in vain. Originally powerful space weapons, at this moment, have become special missile interception devices. The command center has tried to stop this meaningless expulsion war several times, but every time their fleet stopped expulsion, or took other actions, there would always be 1 or 2 scattered fleets that appeared in inexplicable positions after turning on the curvature engine. These scattered fleets rushed to the central star system at a very fast speed, posing as if they were going to carry out a decapitation operation. This terrifying feeling tortured the commander of the Enraged civilization crazily. Until the fleet returned, these scattered fleets would scatter under Zero's auxiliary planning, Zeoziji and Bayixo, and turned the Enraged fleet into a toy in the palm of your hand. This flagship, whose attack power broke through the limit of the 5th level civilization, was completely trapped near the central star system. Time passed by minute in the distant Kepler 452 star system. LV Yongchang stopped his actions. The holographic screens stacked one after another were already filled with dense and complex formulas. Chapter 777 Space-Time Resonance. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the Enraged command center, a series of dirty words rang out. Cunning human civilization. The leader of the alliance issued the most vicious curse in the history of civilization. I curse that your technology will completely stagnate. The old scientist on the side sighed softly. At its age, it no longer allows it to have too many emotional fluctuations. If you ignore the bottles of drugs like quick-acting heart pills and sedatives on its hand. It trembled with its hands and took out a blue pill and swallowed it. Then said in a trembling voice, maybe we can try to negotiate with the other party. Hearing this, the leader's face changed rapidly several times. Finally, it still couldn't hold back the feeling of frustration in its heart, and slapped the console in front of it fiercely. Negotiation? We still have to negotiate with them. Look at what our alliance has become. They are invaders. The old scientist was silent for a while, and responded in a faint tone, but, strictly speaking, we were the first to start. The leader's expression was choked. Obviously, it recalled the scene at that time. Under the effect of the drug, the old scientist quickly became calm. The antimatter reserves of the flagship have been consumed by more than half. The old scientist's calm voice sounded, we can transfer the antimatter of other warships to the flagship to ensure the endurance of the flagship, but the longer such a war lasts, the more unfavorable it will be for the future development of the Enraged alliance. In any way, our best solution is to try to negotiate with the other side. The war has continued to this point, and we have already lost. No matter what conditions the other side puts forward, we can only agree. Do as you say. The leader of the alliance slumped in the chair with powerlessness, muttering to himself, order the fleet to stop chasing the human fleet. The Enraged flagship exited the curvature state and hovered in the vast universe. As usual, in an inconspicuous corner, a battle group consisting of 20 warships suddenly started the curvature engine and rushed straight to the central star system. But this time, the Enraged flagship did not return to defend. This time, the crew members in the battle group were directly stunned. They subconsciously slowed down their speed and even circled the outer periphery of the star system twice. But the enemy flagship still did not make any moves. What should they do now? The commander of the battle group was completely dumbfounded. The higher-ups did not explain this situation. A touch-iron message came, and after Zero's inspection and translation, it was quickly presented in front of them. Negotiation. The commander blinked his confused eyes and sent a communication request to the Titan mothership. Commander Bay, what should we do now? Inside the Kepler 452 star system. LV Yongchang is conducting the final verification phase. Spacetime is like the ocean. Starships are just ships sailing on the ocean. Once huge waves appear, ships cannot sail normally. Just like the curvature engine, it cannot operate normally under the gravitational field of extreme celestial bodies. LV Yongchang explained in a hurried tone. The same is true for space rifts. In theory, the conditions for the formation and propagation of space rifts are quite harsh. In addition to creating a sufficiently strong space distortion effect, a relatively stable space-time environment is also required. This is what we have to do to create huge waves on the ocean of space-time. Speaking of this, Lu Yongchang raised his hand and quickly dragged over the holographic projection filled with deduction processes and space-time models. Here, we need to introduce a concept, space-time resonance. Create space-time fluctuations of the same frequency at the key nodes of space-time. In theory, when this frequency reaches a resonance frequency of space-time, space-time will experience a resonance effect, and unprecedented waves will be set off on the space-time ocean. In such an environment, let alone the curvature engine, even space weapons cannot operate normally. As soon as the voice fell, dozens of experimental ships hovering in different areas outside the Kepler star system started the curvature engine at the same time, and curvature bubbles were generated. LV Yongchang looked at the picture in the holographic projection, nervously pointing his calculations. It is necessary to create extremely high-intensity space-time fluctuations to induce spacetime resonance. Specific spacetime nodes can greatly reduce this demand point, but in any case, it has very high rigid requirements. Fortunately, the curvature engine manufactured based on the grand unified field has extremely high power, which can be regarded as barely reaching the minimum threshold for inducing spacetime resonance. Spacetime monitoring screen. As dozens of experimental ships began to start, a few subtle waves appeared on the originally calm spacetime sea. The next second. The frequency of spacetime fluctuation slowly changes to the specified frequency, and the output power increases rapidly. Time passes gradually. The space-time sea surface with tiny waves seems to be stimulated by something, and the amplitude of the waves begins to increase gradually, and gradually evolves into huge waves. Space-time resonance successfully triggered. From the outside, there is no big abnormality in this star field, and it is still as calm as ever. But inside, it was already in a mess, like a pot of stew, filled with strong gravity in different directions under the protection of the curvature bubble. The experimental ships did not have too many problems. Experimental ship number 147 tried to enter the curvature state. Under Lu Yongchang's order, an experimental ship that had already opened the curvature bubble started the curvature engine. The power of the curvature engine continued to increase. But the experimental ship remained stationary, without any movement at all. Success. Lu Yongchang announced the news in a matter-of-fact tone. I made a simple estimate of the strength of the space rift. In theory, the space-time resonance caused by 1000 warships is enough to strangle it in the cradle, and at the same time, the opponent's fleet cannot enter the curvature state. To be safe, I suggest using 2000 warships to trigger a stronger space-time resonance effect. After issuing the request for negotiation, the atmosphere in the command center gradually became anxious. They had not received a reply from human civilization. Suddenly, the alarm sounded. The touch-iron radar showed that the warships hidden around the star system appeared from all corners at a very fast speed and quickly sailed towards the Enraged fleet. The leader of the alliance suddenly had a bad premonition. What do they want to do? It asked in a panic. Obviously, its question was not answered. The command center sent out a touch-iron message again. Dear human civilization, we hope to have peace talks with you. In order to show sincerity, the Enraged fleet even stopped quietly in place and did not take any action. Time passed slowly. Accompanied by waves of time and space, a full 2,000 warships appeared scattered around the Enraged fleet. The old scientist who looked at this scene frowned subconsciously. At first glance, the positions where these warships appeared did not have much regularity and even seemed a bit messy. But since these warships did not launch an attack, its hanging heart gradually calmed down. Strange, it muttered to itself. What on earth does this human civilization want to do? PS. Thanks to the master of the 10th art for the master certification. The master is awesome! Exclamation mark. Chapter 778 Space-Time Tsunami. The old scientist Enraged's eyes were full of doubts in his opinion. The behavior of these human civilization warships was too strange. Not only did they stop around the Enraged warships in a messy and scattered manner, but they also did not turn off the curvature engine. Even under the detection of the space-time fluctuation detection device, these warships even deployed curvature bubbles to protect themselves. It was as if they were ready to enter the curvature state again at any time and anywhere. What is this? Whether he chose to accept the negotiation proposal or to continue the guerrilla war until the flagship ran out of energy, in the eyes of the old scientist, such a strange scene would not appear. Just as he was confused, a touch-iron message came from the flagship of the human fleet. Looking at the prompts on the screen, the old scientist was refreshed. As the translation program started, lines of Enraged words quickly appeared in front of him. The cold words on the screen made the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually stiffen. What? The old scientist couldn't believe his eyes. Hand over all the control permissions of the warships. Transfer all the control permissions of the civilization's central computer. Become their subordinate civilization. The corners of its eyes twitched a few times. Even with the help of drugs, it couldn't maintain its original calm. It was furious and said with a fierce look in its eyes, "Damn human civilization, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Attack. Keep attacking." Not only it, but the other senior Enraged personnel in the command center also showed different degrees of anger on their faces. What does subordinate civilization mean? Don't they know it? In their view, regardless of whether this war wins or loses, the Enraged civilization, which controls the deterrent power of space weapons, has the right to communicate with human civilization on an equal footing. That's why the old scientist torn up the unilateral proposal of human civilization with a fierce look and responded with an extremely strong tone. The meaning is close to the classic national quintessence in human civilization. At the same time, like a gangster who lost a fight, he said something cruel. "Damn human civilization, wait. Our flagship will attack your home planet sooner or later. Sooner or later, the space rift will tear your home planet into two halves evenly and smoothly." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At the same time as the touch-iron message was sent, the sharp alarm sounded again. The warships that had been quietly staying around the Enraged fleet finally began to move. Under Zero's control, the curvature engine changed its usual operating mode and simply created space-time fluctuations with a certain frequency in the target area. In the space-time monitoring equipment of the Enraged civilization, the originally calm space-time suddenly showed extremely subtle fluctuations. There are as many as 2,000 fluctuation points, but for this starfield, the disturbance caused by these 2,000 fluctuation points is not large and can even be described as weak. Under normal circumstances, this kind of space-time fluctuation can be ignored. What are they doing? The leader of the alliance looked at the fluctuations in the space-time monitoring equipment and asked. The old scientist did not reply, and a feeling of panic appeared in his heart for no reason. His long scientific research career gave him a keen scientific intuition. His intuition told him that, if the situation was allowed to develop, it might be unfavorable to the Enraged civilization. Space weapons begin to charge. Power 100%. The target of attack is the nearest human warship. It hurriedly issued an order. "No matter what humans are going to do, we must stop them." The voice fell. The Enraged flagship, which was surrounded by more than 2,000 human warships, changed its original silent posture. The antimatter reactors all over the ship began to run at full power, and an unknown force field of the enraged civilization appeared again between the two abrupt antennas at the same time. A sudden change occurred. The space-time, which originally had only a few subtle ripples, seemed to be affected by something unknown, and the amplitude suddenly began to increase at a very high speed. In just a few seconds, the originally calm sea of time and space had already stirred up a big wave. The old scientist suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the screen in disbelief. With its scientific literacy, it quickly realized the principle behind it: resonance. It subconsciously forgot the crisis facing civilization, and with a gleam of knowledge in its eyes, it muttered to itself, time and space actually have such a property. It suddenly realized a problem. Time and space resonance may bring an unprecedented time and space tsunami. No wonder those human warships have to open the curvature bubble in advance. Not good. Its face changed drastically, and it shouted loudly, "Quick! All warships, start the curvature bubble immediately." Obviously, its reaction was still a bit late. The alarm from the flagship has already sounded. In the turbulent time and space, the space rift that should have been generated long ago, even though the power of the curvature engine has reached its peak, has not appeared yet. By observing with a high-definition ultra-high-speed camera, one can vaguely see a continuously twisting black line flashing from time to time between the two antennas, but the next moment, the black line seemed to be disturbed by something and quickly disappeared in the vast universe. It was like an old TV with a snow screen due to poor contact. Under the order of the old scientist, the enraged fleet quickly activated the curvature bubble. Under the operation of the curvature bubble, the space-time waves around the ship were gradually smoothed, and the ship and space weapons returned to a stable state. Watching the black line quickly extend to both sides, the old scientist subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. One wave has not yet subsided. Another wave rises amid the piercing alarm. The flagship of human civilization has already opened the launch silo, and missiles equipped with curvature engines and antimatter engines have left the warship under the reflection of the fire point. But what is strange is that these missiles only generate curvature bubbles. To protect themselves, they did not enter the curvature state, but use the backward antimatter engine as a propulsion method. Slowly rushing towards the enraged fleet. Before the command center issued an order, the enraged fleet commander had already issued an interception order. Given that these missiles did not enter the curvature state, it chose the simple electromagnetic guns and laser weapons for interception. As the space-time wave intensified, the enraged fleet spewed out fierce interception fire at the approaching curvature missiles. The change happened again. The electromagnetic cannon projectile that had just left the curvature bubble seemed to be affected by something unknown, and quickly deviated from the original route, and began to move irregularly in the vast universe. The laser weapon was naturally not much better. After several twists and turns, the high-energy laser beam had long lost its usual accuracy and shot towards the unknown distance. Chapter 779 Flagship. Enter. Use curvature missiles. The old scientist's order was half a step late again. Only curvature missiles equipped with curvature devices can operate normally in this environment. It looked at the screen with a gloomy expression. Even curvature missiles can only move forward using traditional propulsion methods. If I'm not mistaken, like curvature missiles, our warships have lost their curvature navigation capabilities. Damn. It cursed again. What kind of rogue technology is this? While cursing, looking at the slowly approaching curvature missiles, it felt a strong sense of uneasiness in its heart again. The space-time tsunami caused by space-time resonance. Unknown environment often means danger, especially when this combat environment is created by the enemy. It makes the potential danger multiplied several times. The space rift is ready and can be launched at any time. A report came from the civilization flagship. It suppressed the uneasiness in its heart and gave the order in a deep voice. Keep firing. Shoot down those stationary warships. The positions of these warships are probably carefully calculated. Although it didn't know the specific principles, it quickly grasped the key points. As long as a certain number of node warships are eliminated, this disgusting space-time tsunami will quickly subside. Under The wrapping of the curvature bubble, the space rift has been successfully generated. While continuously extending to both ends, it rushed towards the predetermined target quickly. Swish. In the first moment, it left the range of the two antennas. In the second moment, it left the coverage of the curvature bubble and appeared in the turbulent space-time ocean. In the space-time fluctuation monitoring equipment, the state of the space rift is very clear. It no longer has the original momentum to break through the thorns. It struggled to break through the space-time waves and moved forward to the target point. Every wave will greatly consume its forward energy. At the edge of the originally flat space crack, jagged ripples are appearing at a very fast speed. This is the trace of the surrounding space self-repair. The third moment. It was completely submerged in the space-time tsunami. It only moved forward less than 100,000 kilometers. There is no doubt that compared with the past, under the influence of the space-time tsunami, this space weapon has been epically weakened. The human fleet that discovered this situation changed its original guerrilla style, drove the antimatter engine, and rushed forward. At the same time, a touch-iron message appeared on the screen of the Enrajet command center. Now, your space weapon is gone. Excluding the 2,000 warships fixed at the space-time node, the remaining more than 100, Golden Crow, and White Tiger, around the Titan mothership, formed a mini assault formation, driven by the antimatter engine, and rushed towards the Enrajet fleet, when both sides have lost curvature navigation and most of their weapons. What tactics should be adopted? Without a doubt, close combat. Like the choice of human civilization, the Enrajet fleet also rushed forward 1500 vs 100. In terms of quantity, the Enrajet fleet has the advantage. At first, the command department of the Enrajet civilization also thought so. But when the two sides approached, they realized the problem. Even if only missiles equipped with curvature engines can be used normally, human civilization also has a large number of warheads that can be called fouls, basic antimatter warheads, advanced macro black hole warheads, and gravity bomb warheads, not to mention the weird matter disintegration rays that can be released by shipborne drones. Unlike high energy laser weapons, matter disintegration rays are called rays, but in fact they are a range of force fields. Therefore, its accuracy requirements are not high, and the impact is minimal. So, just a face-to-face encounter. The Enrajet fleet paid a heavy price of more than 300 warships perhaps, in order to find a breakthrough. The flagship of the Enrajet civilization finally moved. Driven by the antimatter engine, and protected by a group of warships around it, it rushed straight towards the Titan mothership. King vs King, General vs General, the Enrajet civilization, trapped in a desperate situation, set its sights on the flagship of the human fleet. A gamble. A bicycle becomes a motorcycle. At least, in the past wars, this flagship did not seem to have taken action much, but only played a commanding role. If they could destroy the opponent's command ship in one fell swoop, perhaps they still had a slim hope. Excluding the bug of Chiao as a secondary flagship in the human fleet, the combat capability of the Titan mothership is absolutely second to none. The huge ship body not only provides it with abundant ammunition and supplies, but also gives it a high-strength composite shield second only to the planetary shield. Although the power of the enemy flagship's space weapons has been greatly weakened, it is not something that ordinary warships can easily resist. In addition, the enemy's flagship contains technological creations that human civilization urgently needs, so destroying the enemy ship has become the least likely option. Therefore, in a sense, it is the best choice for the Titan mothership to fight against the enemy's flagship. Facing the attacking enemy ship, Yongchang did not hesitate at all, and directly issued an order to fight back. Flagship, enter. While the power of the shield and curvature bubble was rapidly increased, countless missile silos were already opened. Accompanied by the explosions and flames, the distance between the two flagships is getting closer and closer. 100,000 kilometer warning line. Swish. A strong space-time fluctuation flashed by, and Yongchang's spirit was also tense to the extreme. Space rift, here it comes. Buzz. The load curve of the shield generation device instantly formed a straight peak point. The originally invisible composite shield suddenly became clearly visible due to the space distortion effect of the impact area. Under the light of the shield generation device and other devices, it appeared like a planetary shield, showing a light blue. The attack gradually dissipated. The light of the shield also slowly dissipated, and the load curve gradually returned to flatness. Our shield has not been broken yet. The space rift, that has been weakened layer by layer, was successfully blocked by the composite shield of the fleet. It will take a lot of time for the next space rift to arrive. Take advantage of its illness to kill it. Driven by the large-scale antimatter engine, the huge warship showed unprecedented flexibility. It quickly closed the distance with the enemy ship. Missiles equipped with various warheads poured out, like they were free. The second space rift was coming. Buzz. Some of the composite shield generation devices had already fallen into an overload state and began to emit wisps of smoke that meant complete damage. Dense explosions and flames lit up near the enemy ship at the same time. With a flash of strong light, the shield generation device of the enemy flagship was successfully overloaded, and the composite shield slowly dissipated. After flashing a few times, the opportunity has come. The Titan mothership that had already rushed to the vicinity of the enemy ship quickly opened the side hatch. Countless shipborne drones swarmed out, carrying war robots one after another, and rushed towards the enraged flagship. Interstellar boarding. Chapter 780. Mantis trying to stop a chariot. In the deep and dark universe, two warships of similar size, but very different design styles passed by. Boom, boom, boom. The enraged battleship, whose composite shield had completely dissipated, was bombarded by curvature missiles, and explosions lit up all over the ship. The strong and thick outer armor was blasted with countless gaps. Under the influence of air pressure, the gas inside the battleship quickly spurted out from the gap. The high-speed jet of air also carried some device fragments of unknown purpose and some enraged crew members as the battleship's emergency repair procedures were initiated. The gap area was quickly filled with an unknown substance, which prevented the escape of gas within the ship. The next second, the gravity bomb that reached the tail of Enraged's flagship exploded. A violent light flashed in the darkness, and the majestic energy was transformed into a powerful gravitational field. Squeak. Strong tidal force acted on the rear of the flagship, causing it to emit sharp and harsh creaking sounds. The nozzle of the antimatter engine, which was spewing violent radiation outward, suddenly went out. With the basic structure deformed, the internal antimatter engine stopped urgently. Perhaps because the power of the gravity bomb was deliberately lowered, the powerful gravity only appeared for a short moment and then completely disappeared. This also avoids large-scale damage to the enemy ship's hull. A total of 10 gravity bombs detonated one after another, completely destroying the enemy ship's propulsion system. When the last antimatter engine nozzle stalled, the bulky flagship became a turtle in a urn, and could only rely on inertia to slowly slide forward. The third space rift had just been formed, and slowly dissipated into the vast universe before it even had time to blast out. The flagship's output power was only 10%, and it could only maintain the existence of the curvature bubble. At the same time, under the illumination of high-power searchlights and explosion fire, a large number of ship-based drones swarmed out from the open door of one of the warships like an enraged swarm of bees. They rushed towards the huge battleship not far away without caring about their own safety. After these ship-based drones approached the enemy ship, they quickly activated their high-energy laser cannons. Although it is only a small machine, its power can be clearly understood based on its classification as a naval gun. The purple laser beam flashed rapidly, punching several holes in the flank of the enemy's flagship at lightning speed. The gas inside the ship was once again mixed with a large amount of debris and spewed out. As soon as the emergency repair program was started, it was physically shut down by the intruding ship-based drones with high-energy laser cannons and electromagnetic cannons. The flickering fire from the muzzle, the dazzling light from the broken energy transmission path, these lights mixed together, barely illuminating this dark space. The internal lighting facilities had stopped working long ago. In this terrible environment of flickering lights and the possibility of secondary explosions at any time, several brackets popped up from the side of the carrier-based drone to firmly fix it on the deck. It then opened the hatch in its belly. Boom. Boom. Exclamation mark. Boom. Accompanied by the sound of rapid and dull footsteps, a 2 meters tall humanoid war robot rushed out of it. It raised its arms flexibly and easily tore off the thick and thin cables around it. The electric sparks and high temperature plasma tilted down, but were completely blocked by a miniature composite shield around them. The eyes, glowing red and composed of various high precision detectors, glanced over and quickly transmitted the data to the ship-based drone. The ship-borne drone then acts as a transfer station and uploads all data in real time. Finally, with the support of Zero's huge computing power, the modeling work was completed quickly. Environmental analysis completed. This is a completely enclosed narrow space. A simple conclusion can be drawn through those closed hatches. The other party has sealed off this area, and its purpose is naturally to prevent human civilization from intruding on the flagship as much as possible. In human civilization, there is a simple vocabulary to describe this kind of behavior. The mantis is acting like a chariot. The two huge muzzles on the right and left shoulders of the tall war robot slowly rotated and were aimed at a thick hatch. Boom. The electromagnetic gun and high-energy laser cannon fired at the same time, and the solid and thick isolation hatch did not even last 0.5 seconds before turning into countless flying debris the moment the hatch was shattered. The artillery fire did not stop, but continued bombarding for another second. The passage behind the hatch is in dilapidated condition, with only a basic frame structure remaining. Boom. Boom, boom. Dull footsteps sounded, and war robots penetrated into the enemy ship from the blasted hatch. The same scene occurs in almost all landing points at Command Center. From the moment the flagship power system was destroyed, there was only a slight sound of breathing in the entire Command Center. Whether it was the Enragets or other intelligent creatures from other civilizations, they all looked at the screen in front of them with bleak expressions. On one side of the screen, or 3D model of the Enraget was displayed. There are dense red dots distributed on the sides and belly of the ship. These red dots are rushing into the flagship at extremely fast speeds. No matter what interception measures they deployed inside the flagship, they could not stop the advance rhythm of these red dots. As for the reason, it was presented on the other side of the screen. It was a mechanical army built of pure war machines under the combined effect of various high-powered weapons and composite shield systems. No interception measures could last more than 1 second in front of them. Abandon the flagship. When the time came, the old scientist calmed down completely. He shook his head helplessly. The goal of human civilization is the space weapons inside. Defeat is a foregone conclusion, and I don't want human civilization to get it. The old scientist's proposal was agreed by all command as it pressed a few buttons on the console in front of it. In addition, I hope everyone will be prepared. When the war is completely defeated, I will start the central computer self-destruction program. All information about the ruins will be completely erased. No one raised any objections, and the command center was still as quiet as before. The old scientist operated the console in front of him with a solemn look. Involving the most core device of civilization, it takes a lot of time to unlock each permission. Suddenly, its movement paused slightly. On the personal screen in front of it, a message marked with the highest confidentiality level awakened its long-dormant memory. Chapter 781 Information that has been sealed for 1,300 years. That was a top secret message that had been sealed for 1,300 years at that time. As a top scientist of the Enraget civilization, of course, he had not been born yet. He learned about the top secret message from his mentor 1,300 years ago. The Enraget civilization was still a 4th level civilization. The Enraget civilization, which mastered the antimatter engine and curvature navigation technology, once became the most powerful existence in this starfield. The Enraget alliance has also taken shape. At that time, the Enraget civilization ruled dozens of low-level civilizations, and had a firm foothold in this starfield, and continued to expand outward, and absorb low-level civilizations, until they encountered a flying machine. Spherical mirror flying machine with an extremely smooth surface that can clearly reflect everything around it. The flying machine quietly hovered in the dark and deep universe, like a crystal teardrop. The starlight from infinite distance reflected on its surface, making it as dazzling as a diamond under the sun. Extreme beauty also symbolizes extreme danger. It is a technological creation, and a technological creation far beyond the 4th level. Civilization. When you stare into the abyss is also staring at you. Similarly, when the detector of the enraged civilization discovered it, or in other words, before discovering it, this aircraft discovered the existence of the enraged civilization. But it only observed the enraged civilization from a distance and executed the evaluation process according to the preset program until the evaluation was completed, or in other words, until the moment when the enraged civilization discovered it. The aircraft that had been silent in the starry sky suddenly moved. It moved very abruptly without any engine nozzle. In just a few moments, its flight speed reached 0.7 times the speed of light. This scene caused great fright to the enraged civilization, which did not master the tachyon radar technology at the time. But they successfully judged the other party's propulsion technology through observation of the surrounding space-time. A curvature technology that was far more advanced than this. An electromagnetic wave message with its own decoding program appeared in their computers, bringing them a wider world and an unprecedented road. Becoming a subordinate civilization of the 8th level civilization and directly obtaining the grand unified theory. This is an unparalleled temptation for a 4th level civilization. There was also a lot of dispute within the civilization. The aircraft from the advanced civilization did not urge much, but just hovered quietly in the starry sky as before, as if a god was looking at the believers under his feet. In the end, the enraged civilization rejected this opportunity to ascend to heaven in one step. But an accident occurred. Before the enraged civilization passed the information to the mysterious aircraft, it suddenly disappeared in the visible universe, leaving only a slowly dissipating, extremely strong space-time fluctuation. Judging from the space-time fluctuation that has not yet completely dissipated, the aircraft has left this starfield. The direction it is heading is a remote corner on the outer edge of the Milky Way. It seems that there are more important things waiting for it there. The information of this magical and dangerous contact was encrypted layer by layer and stored in the deepest part of the civilization's central computer. As time went by, it was gradually forgotten by the world. Today, there are probably few people in the entire civilization who still remember this accidental contact event 1,300 years ago, and no one will remember that the enraged civilization almost took a completely different development path. But in the deepest part of the central computer, this top secret information still contains the communication frequency and communication code for contacting the aircraft. In less than a second, countless memories and thoughts flashed through the old scientist's mind. It came back to its senses then. It raised its head and glanced at the screen in front of it. On the screen, a part of the red dots had broken through the outermost defense line of the flagship and were heading towards the core area of the flagship. It pretended to open the top secret information as if nothing had happened. With its current permission, this was easy to do. Then, it wrote down the complex communication frequency and communication code. Exit, delete, crush. It deleted this top secret file from the central computer without hesitation. After completing this series of operations, it remotely mobilized the large tachyon communication device set up in the synchronous orbit of the mother star that is the most powerful tachyon communication device in the enraged civilization. In terms of the monitoring accuracy of the enraged civilization on tachyons, it is enough to cover a territory of 100 light years when running at maximum power. It can even send designated information to a distant area 150 light years away. The communication distance of the tachyon communication device mainly depends on 2 points. First, the transmission power. Second, the monitoring accuracy. In other words, for advanced civilizations with higher monitoring accuracy, the transmission range of this tachyon communication device may far exceed 150 light years. The old scientist who knew this well did not fluctuate at all and accurately and quickly input the compiled information into it. Level 5 civilization, enraged civilization, is willing to become your subordinate civilization. Maximum power, start point number of cycles, 10 million times. The old scientist who completed all the operations took a deep breath. Looking at the war robot array that was still breaking through the defense line inside the ship, the panic in its eyes was swept away, replaced by extreme coldness. The enraged civilization is over human civilization. Don't think about being immune. The prompt sound of all permissions unlocked has sounded point. The old scientist looked at the dark blue physical button on the console with a serious look. Point. The flagship self-destructs, and the central computer enters the self-destruction countdown. As long as it presses this button, all irreversible self-destruction programs will start. Point. It did not hesitate at all, facing the eyes of everyone in the command center, and directly pressed the dark blue button in front of it. Point. Click. Point. A slight damping feeling and key sound sounded. Point. The old scientist subconsciously closed his eyes. It didn't want to see the scene of the Enrajet explosion. Point. 1 second. 2 seconds. The originally quiet command center gradually began to have inappropriate noisy discussions. What's going on? The old scientist, with his eyes closed, suddenly felt an unknown anger in his heart. This is the flagship of the Enrajet civilization. This is the death of the flagship. Can these warriors have even a little respect for its death? It suddenly opened its eyes and glared at the commanding officers around it. Point. Just as it was about to yell, it saw the picture on the screen. Point. So the anger on its face disappeared. Point. It also made a hoarse voice. This is what's going on. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 782, Nano Invasion Device. Time went back 10 minutes to the moment when the war robot set foot on Enrajet's flagship for the first time. Point. In order to break through the enemy's interception facilities, the war robots raised their muzzles and launched fierce attacks on the target. Point. Just when the attention of the Enrajet command center was fully attracted, special projectiles were mixed in the gunfire and bombarded into the deck and various devices of the battleship. Point. No one noticed that these silver-white projectiles did not explode violently when they hit the target, but melted quickly, like a pool of silver-white liquid melting into various gaps. This is the latest research result of the Academy of Sciences, nano-invasive device. Point. From the original design concept, they should be installed on warp missiles to launch intrusions into enemy computer systems through ultra-long range attacks, but in actual combat the situation is too complex. Point. On the one hand, with the help of various composite shields and interception weapons, it is difficult for curvature missiles to approach enemy warships. On the other hand, the enemy can physically cut off the communication link of the invaded warship at any time to block Zero's invasion. A premature attack will not only fail to have the desired effect, but may even alert the enemy. Point. Therefore, it was ultimately used in interstellar gang-hopping battles to seize control of the flagship. Point. These silver-white projectiles are composed of a large number of specially modified nanorobots. They have stronger endurance and mobility. Point. In the previous salvo, each war robot fired an average of more than 10 such special projectiles. A huge number of nanorobots launched a saturation attack on the flagship from all angles and directions. In unknown corners, build the plank road openly and crossed Yongchang secretly. When some of the nanorobots successfully came into contact with the Tachyon communication equipment, this war has been completely declared over. On the screen in front, the picture it expected did not appear. The huge flagship that should have crashed into the explosion flames of the antimatter reactor is still gliding through the universe without incident. Point. At the same time, the red dots representing the invaders suddenly accelerated several times. The defensive facilities were just as fake and did not play any blocking role. Point. These war machines were like sharp swords, thrusting straight into the core area of the flagship. The old scientist's eyes suddenly widened. He subconsciously raised his hand and pressed the physical button in front of him again. Point. Click. Click, click. The familiar damping feeling came, but there was no change. Point. The button is broken. The old scientist looked at the blue button in front of him in bewilderment. Point. Are you kidding me? How could a physical button that is related to the life and death of a 5th level civilization be broken at any time? Just when it was at a loss, a line of Enrajet text slowly appeared in the center of all screens. Hello. This is human civilization. The noisy exchanges in the command center disappeared at this moment. Point blank. Point. My mind went blank. Point. The old scientist stared blankly at the 2 lines of text on the screen. Point. After a long time, its stagnant thinking finally started to work. Point. Just like an old starship that had been parked for thousands of years, its thinking organ took a lot of time To draw a conclusion from these two simple lines of text with great difficulty. Civilization's central computer has been hacked. Then, like an erupting volcano, countless questions spewed out of its heart. When did it happen? Why was there no warning? Why no warning? Why suddenly, it seemed to have thought of something, and turned its head suddenly, to look at a screen beside it. Aha, his body went limp, and he collapsed directly on the seat behind him. Synchronous orbit touch-ion communication transmitting device. The sending task has been forcibly stopped. Current number of cycles. 0. That message was not sent. Its expression was a little distorted, as if it was enduring some pain. The old scientist struggled up from his seat, and took another look at the core top secret files of the central computer. It let out a long sigh of relief. The top secret document has disappeared. It raised its hand, and covered its chest, its eyes filled with pain. On the screen in front of the command center, the more than 2,000 battleships serving as nodes have stopped their curvature engines, and are forming an EAT formation and slowly heading towards the Enraged star system. At the forefront of the fleet is the huge flagship. The originally choppy space-time ocean gradually returned to calm. Densely packed red dots have entered the core area of the flagship, Enraged, next to the human fleet. One Enraged warship stopped attacking uncontrollably, and then, amid everyone's exclamations, actively joined the fleet of human civilization. It slowly closed its eyes after a few seconds, its painful expression suddenly relaxed, and the arm that was originally covering its chest dropped uncontrollably. The command center had already become a mess. No matter how the alliance leaders issued orders, the commanders who were facing a life and death crisis were running around like headless flies. Only the old scientist, Enraged, whose body was full of wrinkles, was still sitting quietly on the chair. The loose eyelids opened slightly, and the lifeless eyes seemed to be staring at the chaotic command center, and also seemed to be staring at the sunset belonging to the Enraged civilization. It died. No one noticed. In the Kepler 452 star system. In the Azure holographic projection, lines of white text emerged. At the same time, Zero's electronic synthesized voice also sounded. The central computer control permission has been successfully seized. The smile that just appeared on Yongchang's face completely dissipated in the next second. Warning, unknown type I potential threat is found, and we are trying to intercept it. The originally Azure holographic image also turned blood red in an instant. Hearing this line of prompts, Yongchang's face suddenly changed. He changed his original calm appearance, and stood up directly from the chair. Type I potential threat, in the classification of the sociology branch, is the highest level of potential threat to human civilization. Usually, only contact with unknown advanced civilizations will trigger such alarms. That's why Yongchang's heart was already in his throat. Could it be that there is a higher level civilization behind this level 5 civilization? The sending program has been forcibly stopped. The current number of messages sent, 0. Soon, Zero's electronic synthesized voice sounded again. Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief. This slightly stiff electronic synthesized voice actually brought him an unprecedented sense of security. 0. What's going on, LV? Yongchang sat back in his chair, and asked Zero in a deep voice, what is the content of the message? Who is the target of the message? Chapter 783, Earth, said Sale. Searching for relevant information in the database. The stiff electronic synthesized sound sounded again. There is no doubt that the database of a 5th level civilization is extremely large. In theory, this core information should not be too difficult to retrieve, because it is placed in the core and most secure area of the database. 40. This stood out like a guiding light. What? Encryption program. I've even managed the central computer, and you're telling me about data encryption, but the reality deviated greatly from expectations. Time passed by, and the amount of data retrieved by Zero had reached an extremely exaggerated level, but it still did not give an accurate response. Yongchang's uneasiness gradually increased. Relevant information has not been retrieved. The content of the message was sent using unknown passwords and dictionaries. The necessary information is missing, and cannot be deciphered. Sure enough. After a while, Zero, who had completed the retrieval work, brought a bad news. According to the log information, the other party performed a deletion of top secret files a few seconds ago. Preliminary Inference is that the document may be highly relevant to the content of the letter. The possibility of recovering deleted content is basically zero. Yongchang took a deep breath and issued an order in a deep voice. Let Baixuan land on the other side's home planet immediately. After completing the finishing work on the battlefield, stamp the ideological stamp on everyone in the command center. After the ideological steel seal is imprinted, the interrogation will begin immediately. When the overwhelming fleet arrived in synchronous orbit, the morale of the enraged civilization had dropped to the extreme point. It can be said that, even if human civilization does nothing at this time, most people will choose to surrender. But for Baixuan, such a surrender procedure was too slow, especially after receiving the emergency order from Yongchang. He became even more anxious. Baixuan and Titan mothership made countless swear words after learning the specific situation point. Another idiot who secretly communicates with higher civilizations. TMD, the peaceful life that mankind has finally enjoyed must not be destroyed in the hands of such a stupid young man. With this thought in mind, he directly issued an order. Turn on the anti-gravity system. Log indirectly, then point in. Everyone's horrified eyes. Thousands of huge ships slowly fell from the sky point. They blocked the light from the main star, but the fire caused by the friction between the ship's hull and the atmosphere still illuminated the entire sky. Their battleships. The Alliance leader in the command center looked at the spectacular scene in the sky and murmured in a low voice, "Won't it be affected by the tidal force?" The giant ship stopped in a low altitude area less than 1,000 meters above the surface, and then the thick naval gun was directly inserted into the face of the command center point. Surrender or perish. Under the flickering light of the muzzle, a line of enraged's words appeared on all the screens again. Point. This scene, as if a god descended to earth, completely shattered the inner defenses of enraged's civilization. Point. Those diehards who refused to surrender either defected or committed suicide. Under the threat of face-to-face naval guns, the entire surrender process came to an end in just a few days. The demise of the enraged civilization, which is the backbone of the Alliance, will theoretically cause turmoil in the entire Alliance. Point. However, under the maintenance of a large number of combat teams sent by the human fleet in advance, the order of the Alliance remained relatively intact. Point. Regardless of whether it was voluntary or forced, at least, no civilization within 100 light years has successfully left its home star system. Point. The acceptance of the enraged Alliance is advancing steadily, and with the successful imprint of the ideological stamp, interrogation work has also begun. Point. After simple repairs, the enraged flagship loaded with space weapons was escorted by dozens of warships and headed towards the Kepler 452 star system. Point. At the same time, the robot has completed a series of cleaning tasks and landed on the flagship to begin preliminary research work. What? Yongchang, who was in the laboratory and was conducting research based on the data transmitted remotely, suddenly turned ugly. The enraged person who sent this message is dead. The cause of death was organ failure caused by natural aging. No one in the command center knows about this. Yongchang couldn't help but cursed in his heart. Point. What the hell is this? Interrogation. Continue the interrogation. He took a deep breath and suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. Expand the scope of the interrogation to all senior personnel of the enraged Alliance. Received. Ling responded to Yongchang's order meticulously. Professor, I found a piece of information in the database of the enraged civilization related to the space weapons loaded on the flagship. Yongchang, who had just turned his attention back to his research work, suddenly raised his head and stared at Zero's holographic avatar. What did you say? The holographic projection unfolded quietly. Point. Lines of translated graphic and text information were clearly presented before Yongchang's eyes. It was a huge fortress comparable in size to a gas giant planet. Point. Judging from the texture on its surface, it belongs to an unknown advanced civilization. The design style of the sweeper's warship is not like this. I'll give it a try. Is it true or not? Is this enraged civilization so lucky? Yongchang looked amazed, and at the same time he murmured to himself unbalanceedly, with such good conditions, we are only a level 5 civilization until now. What a waste. Yongchang's unusual behavior quickly attracted the attention of other scientific researchers. Yongchang, did you find anything Fang Zhu asked casually while completing his own research task. It's a small thing, just a relic left by an advanced civilization. Lu Yongchang responded like this. Oh, ruins. Fang Zhu suddenly came back to his senses. He suddenly jumped up from the chair and even knocked down the seat behind him. What did you say? The remains of high civilization, the ruins below. He ignored the chair that fell on the ground and ran towards Lu Yongchang in 3 steps at a time, looking at the graphic information in the holographic projection. Fang Zhu took a sharp breath, and an abnormal blush quickly appeared on his originally plain face due to excitement. You call this a trivial matter? Fang Zhu gritted his teeth and looked at Lu Yongchang, who was smiling at the corner of his eyes. You really deserve to die. By the way, according to the information in the database, the enraged civilization obtained space weapons in the peripheral area of the ruins. Lu Yongchang dropped a bombshell again. Fuck. This. Fang Zhu had only this response point: peripheral area, space weapons. What about the interior? Where are the coordinates? Where are the coordinates? He widened his eyes and looked at the holographic projection filled with dense information. Near a neutron star within the territory of the Enraged Alliance. Lu Yongchang had already opened the star map and determined the spatial coordinates of the ruins. 0 Earth, said Sale. Chapter 784 Abnormal Structure. Under LV Yongchang's command, the Earth slowly left Pla 452b and headed out of the star system, driven by the curvature engine under Zero's control. A large number of experimental ships, material ships and frigates followed the Earth after the expedition fleet. Human civilization once again sent a scientific research fleet to the territory of the Enraged Alliance. Neutron star, one of the densest stars in the universe except for black holes. When a bright star reaches the end of its life and explodes as a supernova, it may form a neutron star. Its material density is extremely high. If an external force compresses the Earth into a small ball with a diameter of about 20 meters, it becomes a neutron star. Therefore, its surface gravity has also reached an extremely exaggerated level, hundreds of billions of times the gravity on the surface of the Earth. This powerful force can even crush atoms and press extranuclear electrons into the nucleus. This is also the origin of the name of the neutron star, which is a star composed directly of dense neutrons. Neutron degeneracy, pressure, and gravity are in balance, maintaining the existence of neutron stars and preventing them from collapsing into black holes. White dwarfs are the result of the balance between electron degeneracy, pressure, and gravity. This is also the navigation target of this scientific research fleet, with a straight line distance of 627 light years. Although human civilization has long conducted scientific research near small black holes, human civilization is still only at the stage of distant observation when it comes to the exploration of neutron stars. The reason is, there are no neutron stars within the 500 light year territory of human civilization. As for before, human civilization at that time did not have the leisure to find a neutron star for a search. There is no doubt that the researchers in the Earth were excited at this time, especially when they learned that there was an artificial celestial body with a volume close to that of a gas giant planet near the neutron star. Everyone was filled with curiosity, except for LV Yongchang. LV Yongchang stood by the porthole, staring at the unique fantasy scene under the superluminal curvature navigation state outside the porthole, and his originally relaxed brows slightly wrinkled. Indeed, both the space weapons and the relics of advanced civilizations brought him great surprises. Especially this relic of advanced civilization has been explored for thousands of years by predecessors, and it can be basically confirmed that there is no advanced intelligent life inside it. As for the reason, a bunch of bugs are scratching your door every day, and this scratching has lasted for thousands of years. What would you do in this case? The relics did not react at all, which is very telling. But even so, after a brief surprise, Lu Yongchang fell into deep thought. What's wrong? Just as Lu Yongchang was lost in thought, Fang Zhu's voice suddenly sounded from the side. Then a figure appeared beside him, also looking at the bizarre scene outside the porthole. There's nothing going on outside. Yongchang, how long have you been watching this scene? Are you still not tired of it? LV Yongchang laughed dumbly, shook his head and explained, no, I think there's something wrong with the structure of the ruins. Fang Zhu's expression suddenly became serious about the ruins. What do you mean? A trap, LV. Yongchang pondered for a moment and sorted out his thoughts. In the simplest terms, it shouldn't be this big. What, Fang? Zhu's expression froze slightly, and there was a bit of weirdness and surprise in his eyes just at that moment. He was even ready to face the advanced civilization, but LV Yongchang gave him such a show. LV Yongchang obviously didn't notice Fang Zhu's weird look, and continued to talk to himself. When studying the structure of the planetary fortress, we once built a model. Although the planetary fortress has many advantages, considering mobility and other issues, its volume has an upper limit, 10 times the volume of the Earth. This is the maximum volume of the planetary fortress calculated, based on the model without considering the consumption of construction resources, for planetary fortresses exceeding this volume, both in terms of mobility and unit volume. Structural strength will decline to a large extent if resource consumption is taken into account. A planetary fortress with a diameter of 5,000 to 8,000 kilometers will be the best choice. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand and swept it across the air, and a holographic projection appeared in front of the two. Take a look at the remains of this advanced civilization. The scale even exceeds that of Jupiter. This far exceeds the optimal volume or even the maximum volume in our model. However, in such a large volume, its mass is not large, only less than 5 times the mass of Jupiter. LV Yongchang looked at Fang Zhu with burning eyes. There must be something wrong here. Fang Zhu was puzzled. Fang Zhu pondered. Fang Zhu suddenly realized. Snap. He clapped his hands hard and said loudly, "You mean, this relic may have used some unknown material? Is it possible that it is a dense structure similar to a neutron star?" As soon as he finished speaking, he frowned and shook his head to overturn his own argument. No, no, no. Such a large dense structure of a neutron star. Then the mass is incredible. Is there another mystery? LV Yongchang, seeing Fang Zhu walking further and further away on the wrong road, he hurriedly coughed and interrupted Fang Zhu's thoughts. No, I mean, it's probably empty in here. He looked at Fang Zhu in surprise. Why do you think so complicated? Fang Zhu, empty? This, Fang Zhu looked at Lu Yongchang dumbfounded. When I say empty, I don't mean a vacuum. Seeing that Fang Zhu stopped talking, Lu Yongchang continued to explain. But it may just be a shell wrapped around a gas giant planet. Fang Zhu couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Although Lu Yongchang's conclusion is a bit too simple and crude. But looking back and thinking about it carefully, it seems that this possibility is really not small. It is a technological creation that is larger than Jupiter, but its mass is less than 5 times the mass of Jupiter. This average density is too low. The average density of Jupiter is only 1.32. Calculated, the average density of this technological creation is even smaller than that of Earth. This is obviously impossible. Then, what is their purpose of building this planetary fortress? Fang Zhu asked subconsciously. Is it possible that the advanced civilization is still planning to leave with this gas giant planet? Lu Yongchang's eyes couldn't help but light up. Don't say it, don't say it. It's really possible. Fang Zhu looked at him helplessly. It's crazy, Fang Zhu muttered in a low voice. There are gas giant planets everywhere. Does a civilization with such high technology need to pay attention to a gas giant planet? What if? What if? A mysterious smile appeared on Lu Yongchang's lips. What if this gas giant planet is the mother star of that civilization? Fang Zhu's expression was suffocated, and he fell into silence. Chapter 785 Relics. An unknown corner of the Energet Alliance. This starfield is very desolate, and there is no trace of civilization within a radius of 20 light years. It was artificially cleared. The original inhabitants who lived in the nearby star system moved away from this starfield under the persuasion of the Energet civilization. In the central area of this starfield, there is a beautiful nebula with a purple-red Glow point that is the product of a supernova explosion point according to the preliminary detection data of human civilization and the research of the enraged civilization. This supernova explosion occurred about 200,000 years ago point in the scale of the universe. This is a very short time point and this brilliant supernova explosion also successfully put a star into the grave. It became a neutron star Earth calendar year 3750 point accompanied by a wave of space-time fluctuations. A brand new fleet appeared in the empty universe 0.1 light years away from the neutron star surrounding it is sparse nebular matter. But compared with the empty interstellar space, it is already very crowded point these nebular materials are spreading outward at a slow speed point this is the last cry of the start of the universe. Before it died point the fleet shut down the curvature engine and quietly hovered in this brilliant nebula point. Although the curvature engine has been iterated several times, it is still not good enough in front of the extreme celestial body point a few seconds later the antimatter engine began to emit increasingly strong radiation, and the human fleet began to move towards the target area again. Time passed slowly point the human fleet finally approached the target point a huge planet with a dark grey body point the surface of the planet is very flat, with almost no gaps and protrusions, and no redundant devices this is definitely not a naturally generated object point any intelligent creature can draw this simple conclusion at a glance point in front of a planet with a diameter of 150,000 kilometers. The human fleet is as small as a sesame seed point under Zero's precise control. The fleet slowly entered its synchronous orbit point in the distance. There is a small bright spot shining with dazzling light. That is the remains of the star. The neutron star according to the information in the enraged civilization database. Zero easily found its entrance point it was a huge crack across the surface of the planet point the straight crack was 50,000 kilometers long and more than 10,000 kilometers wide point what does this mean? Even Caillou could easily enter the entrance of this fortress. That is the largest megastructure ever built by human civilization for a planet with a diameter of 150,000 kilometers. This crack is nothing point but for humans. This is definitely an extremely terrifying abyss. The dark crack extended inward, which made people feel a little scared point the camera zoomed out point the Earth, which was 10,000 meters long, was like an ant quietly hovering over the abyss a few hours later dozens of experimental ships broke away from the fleet and slowly drove towards this bottomless abyss driven by antimatter engines. Earth Command Center LV Yongchang sat in his seat, looking at the real-time images sent back by the experimental ship with a focused look point for safety reasons. There were no personnel inside these experimental ships, and all operations were completed by Zero point the huge holographic projection brought an unparalleled immersive viewing experience point looking at the gradually enlarging dark abyss. Even LV Yongchang subconsciously held his breath point the fear hidden deep in the DNA also arose spontaneously point suddenly point a ray of light appeared in the abyss the orange yellow light of unknown origin was evenly sprinkled in every corner of the entrance, dispelling all the darkness in the cracks the atmosphere in the command center was very calm, without any surprise point according to the data of the enraged civilization. This is normal point the energy in the ruins was not interrupted. And this orange-yellow light was equivalent to a welcoming light point LV Yongchang frowned slightly point what surprised him was that the ruins did not have the function of identifying friend or foe point maybe it was intentional, or maybe there was a malfunction in the functional module. In short, at present, these experimental ships are still safe point after the orange-yellow welcoming light appeared. Attraction force appeared precisely around these experimental ships this force seemed gentle, but it easily offset the thrust of the antimatter engine of the experimental ship, and led the experimental ship directly into the ruins there was still not much surprise in LV Yongchang's eyes the advanced application of the grand unified field can also be done by human civilization today, but the power is not so exaggerated point as the experimental ship entered the crack. The picture in the holographic projection also changed greatly point the sky and ground are orange yellow point those are two straight, smooth walls extending forward the edge of the crack point. Since the width of the crack reached an astonishing 10,000 kilometers, this world also seemed extremely vast point the tiny experimental ship group was between the orange colored world, following the traction, and moving forward steadily, or flying inward point, although he had expected it in his heart. LV Yongchang was still deeply shocked by such a scene point with such a large entrance and exit. He couldn't even imagine how huge the starship of this civilization was. Time passed in a flashpoint. After flying more than 3,000 kilometers inward, under the action of the traction field, the flight speed of the experimental ship gradually slowed down, and a huge wall appeared in front of every one point in the records of the enraged civilization. This is the checkpoint to enter the outer area of the ruins, or in other words, it is the port gate of this fortress. The traction field gradually dissipated, and the warship landed on the ground. There was a lateral gravity inside the crack point. The intensity was not large, only about 5G point for the experimental ship and the scientific research robots inside. This gravity was nothing point at the moment when the experimental ship successfully landed. A green beam of light came from the giant gate in front and quickly completed the scan of the experimental ship point. Electromagnetic wave signals appeared, and the frequency used, the most common AC frequency, 1420 MHz. The information came with the dictionary and translation program point. After a short wait, lines of concise formulas appeared in front of everyone in the command center. Looking at the familiar formula, LV Yongchang took a deep breath. Grand Unified Theory. PS. Thanks to the 10th art for the Great God certification. Thanks to the author who can't type for the Great God certification. Thanks for your support. A few days ago, I used AI painting to make the character design of the heroine. The picture is placed in the illustration of the first chapter. If you are interested, you can go and have a look. Chapter 786, Strong Interaction Materials. The formula that appeared in the holographic projection instantly touched LV Yongchang's DNA. Grand Unified Theory. No. To be precise, it is part of the Grand Unified Theory. There is a large blank space below the projected text. Obviously. This is the so-called code to complete the Grand Unified Theory. And the data left by the enraged civilization also proves this. Only civilizations that master the Grand Unified Theory are qualified to enter this relic. Looking at the white text and the azure holographic projection, doubts surged in his heart again. If this is a test left by a higher civilization, then what is its purpose? Inheritance? Not likely. Judging from the experience of human civilization, even a higher civilization cannot be so selfless and noble. The world is bustling, all for profit. The world is bustling, all for profit. Even if it is a sweeper civilization that has reached level 8, it has its own purpose and intention. In the pastoral civilization, that's not to mention. Painting what I did at that time is still vivid in my mind. Thinking of this, LV Yongchang was already extremely alert. He pondered for a moment, raised his hand, and began to write very skillfully in the holographic projection in front of him. For LV Yongchang, the derivation process and conclusion of the Grand Unified Theory have become his muscle memory. Not long after, lines of neat and beautiful formulas and calculation processes quickly appeared in the huge holographic projection. When the last character fell, LV Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief. 0. Send it out. Use the same encryption method and communication frequency received at the moment when the electronic synthesized sound sounded. The experimental ship on the surface of the ruin sent an electromagnetic wave signal to the huge wall standing tall and straight in front of it. The orange-yellow light diffused in the between heaven and earth flickered slowly for a few times, as if the internal program was reviewing the answer sheet submitted by human civilization. Although he knew that he had submitted the correct answer, the atmosphere in Earth was inexplicably tense. Suddenly. The orange-yellow light stopped flickering, and the tightly closed thick wall slowly opened under the action of the Grand Unified Field. The orange-yellow light extended all the way, completely presenting the spacious space inside to the eyes of human civilization. It was a space full of mist. The milky white mist was very thick, but under the light of unknown source, it showed a strange orange-yellow color. These mists seemed to be constrained by some force field, and did not escape outside the gate. They just rolled and moved quietly inside the gate. It was beautiful, but it also made Lu Yongchang feel a little worried. This environment with extremely low visibility undoubtedly greatly increased the danger and difficulty of exploration. The strength of the Grand Unified Field that towed the experimental ship did not weaken at all, and the experimental ship that was firmly locked could no longer fly. It seemed that warships were not allowed to enter this internal area. At Yongchang's signal, Zero controlled the scientific research robot to leave the experimental ship, boarded the Planeta relanding vehicle, and drove straight to the gate. At the moment of contact with the mist, the scientific research robot had completed the sampling and analysis work, and the results were also presented in the Earth: hydrogen, helium, ammonia, methane, water, LV. Yongchang softly repeated the data from the scientific research robot. This complex gas is mixed with a large number of small droplets and suspended matter, which is why it appears milky white. The orange-yellow color is just due to the reflection of the light. He raised his eyebrows, and a flash of inspiration flashed through his quantum brain. It seems it's a bit like the upper atmosphere environment on a gas planet. But unlike the standard gas giant planet, the atmospheric environment here is more like the atmosphere of an ice giant. Could it be that the mother planet of this advanced civilization is an ice giant? This thought suddenly flashed through Yongchang's mind. But the problem also arises: the scale of this relic far exceeds the limit of an ice giant, unless, in addition to the ice giant, there are also a lot of free areas inside it. Thinking of this, Yongchang subconsciously flicked his fingers, established a mathematical model, and tried to analyze the internal structure of this planetary fortress with the existing information. The scientific research robot that entered the fog quickly dispatched a large number of macro drones to try to explore and model this huge space. At the same time, the scientific research robot that stayed outside was analyzing and studying the building materials of the ruins as the detection data gradually came in. A slightly noisy discussion gradually appeared in the command center of Earth. The same material technology as the detector of the sweeper civilization, Tau. Yuda exclaimed. They are all strong interaction materials, Lu. Yongchang's expression sank slightly. Perhaps it was because the deterrence brought by the detector was too strong at the beginning. Looking at this extremely powerful material, he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. The so-called strong interaction material, the simplest understanding is neutron star matter. A large number of neutrons are forcibly squeezed together, without any gaps in the middle, thus forming a dense substance. It is also because of this that the material composed of strong interaction materials has the simplest feature: smoothness. There are no protrusions on the surface, even at the atomic level. The extreme smoothness and tightness also create its extreme material strength. Of course, if you ask if there are stronger materials, of course there are. It is also a strong interaction material, but the material is replaced by quarks and neutrons. This is quark star matter. It is denser than neutron star matter, and undoubtedly, it is also stronger, but the material of the relic in front of us obviously cannot reach this level. According to the detection data sent back by the scientific research robot, it only uses a layer of dense neutrons to build a particle level protective film, and its internal structure still uses conventional materials. This just explains the quality problem of this relic. Manipulate the strong interaction force to make neutrons form a dense protective film. This operation is not strange, and it is even quite normal. After all, if it is made entirely of neutron star material, it is simply driving a neutron star around. That power. Any fancy weapons are probably a burden to it. As an extreme celestial body, its own weight and solidity are the most powerful weapons, not to mention planets. Even stars can't withstand its impact. Beep. A crisp reminder sounded, pulling Yongchang's thoughts back from the distant sky. The scientific research robot that went deep into the outer area of the ruins sent back good news. P.S. I'm a little busy today, so I don't have time to write. There's still one chapter left. I'll make up for it tomorrow during the DayCAC. Chapter 787 Weapons? No, ITN-039, a cutting device. Under everyone's gaze, the image in the holographic projection changed rapidly. The image of the dense neutron protective film that was originally neatly arranged slowly dissipated. The scientific research robot that stayed outside also gave up the sampling plan after trying it. Under the action of the strong force field, this layer of neutrons was like being welded to the surface of the ruins, unless antimatter is used. Humans can't break this dense protective film at all point, but the consequences of using antimatter can be imagined. Of course, if the device that controls the strong interaction force can be solved, then this layer of dense neutron protective film will naturally dissipate, just like the neutron star matter that has left the neutron star in the absence of external forces. This kind of strong interaction material cannot exist naturally. At that time, these tightly locked neutrons will quickly escape. There is no doubt that from extreme compression to normal state, this process is bound to have a strong explosion. Subsequently, free neutrons will decay rapidly and produce a large number of protons. Protons and neutrons quickly combine, and the final product is hydrogen or helium. No matter from which aspect, it is impossible to sample and observe the strong interaction material in front of us. The picture in the holographic projection has switched to the perspective of the scientific research robot deep in the ruins. It is a huge technological creation, space weapon. Yes, the appearance of this technological creation is almost exactly the same as the space weapon and the Enraged flagship. The fixings on its base have been dismantled for the most part, and there are many tools and equipment left by the Enraged civilization around. Obviously, until its demise, the Enraged civilization did not have time to dismantle this space weapon. But this is also a bargain for human civilization. Just after entering the ruins, we harvested an intact space weapon. Almost everyone showed an excited expression on their faces, but Lu Yongchang's face showed some confusion. At the same time, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression was also a bit strange. This thing, why does it feel like an assembly line product carved out of a mold? Moreover, is it really normal to put such a powerful weapon directly in the outer area? The detection range of the micro drone gradually expanded. After manually eliminating the masking effect of the orange-yellow fog, the full picture of this area gradually appeared in front of everyone. Looking at the vast area that is almost as large as the surface area of Mars, the expression on LV Yongchang's face became more and more strange. Not only LV Yongchang, but also the expressions of other scientists in the command center have changed a little. Surprise mixed with a bit of surprise and confusion. Hundreds of devices of the same shape are fixed on the ground in an orderly and regular manner. In addition, there are a large number of transport devices similar to tracks. Why does this feel? LV Yongchang muttered to himself in an uncertain tone. Fang Zhu on the side took over the conversation and completed his unfinished words. It's a bit like a factory assembly line. The scientific research robot is exploring the devices around the space weapon at the fastest speed. The conclusion soon appeared in front of everyone. The guess in everyone's mind was not wrong. This is indeed a factory assembly line of advanced civilization. At the same time, there is another unacceptable news. Those space weapons that Enraged civilization and human civilization regard as treasures are very likely to be a highly efficient cutting device. LV Yongchang couldn't help but take a breath. Even in the hands of Enraged civilization, this thing can instantly kill Caillou. If it is fully powered, it must be used to cut strong interaction materials, right? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. The gap between human civilization and advanced civilization is too big. Just when everyone was shocked by this space weapon, no, space rift cutting device, a more unacceptable news came back. These hundreds of space rift cutting devices, a large part are broken. There are only about 70 intact ones. As for why we know it is broken, those damaged devices are even marked with the damaged label. Looking at those crooked words, the corners of Lu Yongchang's mouth twitched slightly. He stretched out his hand to support his forehead and sighed heavily. It seems that the Enraged civilization was lucky enough to successfully find 2 usable space rift cutting devices after exploring such a small area. 0. Have you found the corresponding data interface? LV Yongchang asked after thinking for a moment. Since this relic is still in operation, and even its internal judgment program is still working, it is undoubtedly the best choice to let Zero crack the relic. But no usable data interface has been found yet. The electronic synthesized sound echoed in the command center. LV Yongchang shook his head helplessly. From entering the outer area of the relic to now, The scientific research robots have found countless interfaces and cables that can access data point, but what is puzzling is that these interfaces and cables have been physically cut off and have no effect at all. Continue searching. Try to find other entrances and exits. LV. Yongchang thought for a while and issued an order. Leave a group of scientific research robots to dismantle all space rift cutting devices, including those machines marked as damaged, all moved away under the wide-range detection of a large number of micro-drones. The exit, or the entrance to the next area, was quickly found. Another sky-high gate. Looking at the picture in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang couldn't help but think of the giant fish in the ice. Giant. Perhaps this advanced civilization has an extremely large body just like those giant fish, the detector and scientific research robot observed the gate from a distance, trying to find some information from its appearance. Under the shooting of the high-definition camera, every detail of the gate was clearly presented to everyone. The structure is basically the same as the gate entering this factory area. But there are many more patterns and strange words on this gate. According to the dictionary information sent by the program in the ruins at that time. Zero quickly translated the words on the gate. The 10th Empire, strong interaction material manufacturing area, HIS, this time, let alone the other researchers in the command center. Even LV Yongchang couldn't help but take a breath. Fuck. Fang Zhu and several old timers even cursed. We're going to get rich, Professor. We're going to get rich. LV Yongchang also showed a hint of excitement on his face. If he could get a complete set of strong interaction force manufacturing equipment, then he was confident that he could master this high-end technology within 10 years. Chapter 788, The 10th Empire. After a brief surprise, everyone's attention gradually shifted to another important piece of information. The 10th Empire. This should be the name of this advanced civilization, right? Fang Zhu sighed in a low voice. Named as an empire. The strength of this civilization. I'm afraid it's not simple. LV Yongchang nodded silently. If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. The word empire is not something that every civilization can bear. Just like human civilization, it can only declare to the outside world that it is a pan-human federation in the galaxy. Of course, as long as you are thick-skinned enough and not afraid of trouble, it is natural to stick to yourself. But it is obvious that this advanced civilization that has mastered space weapons and strong interaction materials is unlikely to be the kind of civilization that seeks fame. So, Fang Zhu then asked a creepy question. Where did they go? The moment the voice fell, a strong chill rose behind everyone in the command center. After a short silence, LV Yongchang responded softly. First, rule out the war factor. From the outside, the ruins are intact, without any signs of external damage caused by war. This not only did not reduce the chill in everyone's heart, but even aggravated it a bit. Let an advanced civilization that has mastered such technology abandon its home planet and leave. After ruling out the war factor, LV Yongchang found it difficult to imagine the reason. One mystery after another slowly rose in everyone's mind. Keep going. LV Yongchang thought for a moment and gave an order. The fleet retreats 0.1 light years. When the fleet arrives at the target area, the scientific research robot approaches the gate and sends electromagnetic wave information to the gate. Information. Content. Still. Choose the previous grand unified theory. Outside the ruins, the scientific research fleet led by Earth started the antimatter engine again and slowly drove away. When the fleet reached the target area 0.1 light years away, the scientific research robots inside the ruins took action again. They slowly stepped forward and took the initiative to send electromagnetic wave signals to the gate. The surrounding orange-yellow light flickered slightly for a few times, and a response message came back from the gate. Inside Earth, LV Yongchang stared at the translation progress in the holographic projection with full concentration. There was not much worry in his eyes, on the contrary. He was even a little excited at this time. The test question appeared. About the practical application of the grand unified theory, grand unified field technology. The test question. was not profound, just reaching the technological limit of human civilization, interfering with and controlling gravity and electromagnetic interaction, and did not involve strong and weak interaction point. Rather than saying it is the technological limit of human civilization, it is not the technological limit of level 5 civilization point. The excitement in LV Yongchang's eyes gradually dissipated, and even revealed a bit of disappointment. What a pity. He curled his lips and murmured in a low voice with disappointment on his face. Judging from the form of the last test question, if this test question involves the theory of advanced civilization, then he can even get some theoretical information for free. Knowing the theoretical system of advanced civilization in advance will only be beneficial to the future development of human civilization. Maybe it can greatly increase the speed of human civilization becoming a level 6 civilization. It's a pity. Although he knew what LV Yongchang meant, Fang Zhu couldn't help rolling his eyes when he heard this. At least we can enter the next area. He rubbed his hands, and his eyes showed some expectation. The manufacturing area of strong interaction materials. It's really exciting to think about it. As he said this, he signaled to LV Yongchang with his eyes. Why are you standing there? You should fill in the answer quickly. No. Hurry. Facing Fang Zhu's urging eyes, LV Yongchang chuckled and looked at the holographic projection in front of him with interest. The first test question screened out civilizations below level 5. The second test question screened out those level 5 civilizations within sufficient technological level. Interesting. There was a little light in his eyes. I seem to understand what this advanced civilization wants to do. LV Yongchang did not keep the suspense, but gave a direct answer. The other party's purpose is probably to select the potential players who are about to become, or can become level 6 civilizations. If my guess is correct, if there are areas to enter later, the test questions there will be related to space, or time and space. Fang Zhu's heart jumped. The word selection sounds uncomfortable. It seems that in front of this advanced civilization called the 10th Empire, civilizations below level 6 are like seeds that can be selected at will. He frowned. What should we do now? Huh? LV Yongchang looked at Fang Zhu in surprise. What should we do? Of course, keep moving forward. Since we are here, can we give up halfway? Besides, what does the question answered by the zero-sum robot have to do with us humans? As he said, LV Yongchang had already raised his hand and wrote the answer in the holographic projection. Fang Zhu, you know how to take the blame. The response message was still sent to the gate in the form of electromagnetic waves. At the same time, the orange-yellow light of unknown origin flickered slightly as usual. This time the flickering time was a little longer, as if the program inside the ruins was not good at judging application type technologies. As the frequency of the orange-yellow light flickered gradually, an electromagnetic wave message came from the gate. Hello, strange 5th level silicon-based civilization. The translated text appeared in the holographic projection of Earth. There was a commotion in the command center. Ah, they still there? Fang Zhu trembled and exclaimed. The information that appeared in the next second was a slap in the face at the speed of light. This is the mother planet fortress of the 10th Empire. I'm the central control mastermind of the fortress. You can call me 10. Artificial intelligence? LV Yongchang raised his eyebrows sharply and said to himself, I wonder what level of artificial intelligence this is. Wait, he suddenly noticed a problem with the name, silicon-based civilization. Does it think we are a silicon-based civilization? It seems the other party should be just a level I artificial intelligence, otherwise it shouldn't make such a serious mistake. Thinking of this, LV Yongchang's heart calmed down a little. Strange level 5 silicon-based civilization, please tell me your name. Another message appeared in the holographic projection. LV Yongchang pondered for a moment. Fingers moved slightly and replied, Enraged civilization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 789 Silicon-Based Life. Hello enraged civilization. Welcome to the 10th Empire. The moment this line of text appeared, the atmosphere in the Earth command center suddenly became weird. The poor enraged civilization was pulled out as a shield just after it perished. What does the enraged civilization have to do with a human civilization? Yongchang said this, and followed the other party's words and asked, are you also silicon-based life forms? After waiting for a few seconds, the level I artificial intelligence in the ruins responded, no, I'm not, I'm just a type I artificial intelligence they created. But the individuals of the 10th Empire are silicon-based life forms. Yongchang understood. With his eyes moving slightly, he asked again, what do I need to pay? In order to cheat as much information as possible from the level I artificial intelligence, he deliberately blurred the words of his inquiry. 10. What follows is a longer waiting time. Enraged civilization has successfully passed the second stage of assessment. Please continue moving forward. The next moment, the closed door in front of him suddenly opened, revealing the deeper structure of the ruins. Yongchang, what the hell? Just run away. With a look of astonishment on his face, he sent several messages to the gate, but received no response from 10 his. Yongchang took a breath and muttered to himself with some toothache, this artificial intelligence seems to be a bit introverted. Fang Zhu, ahem, I'm kidding. Looking at the increasingly weird expressions of everyone around him, Yongchang explained with a smile, it should be a problem with the program settings, since the individuals of the 10th Empire are silicon-based organisms. It is easy to understand that silicon-based organisms are given preferential treatment in programming. He plausibly said, I would do the same thing in other circumstances. Fang Zhu, who was about to ask for evidence, twitched his lips. Well, in a sense, as the creator of Zero, these words of Yongchang are indeed the most powerful evidence at present. In short, the robot we sent was identified as a silicon-based life form by accident. This is definitely a good thing for us. Yongchang waved his hand. Keep going, strong. Interaction material manufacturing area. Although the basic structure is similar to the outer factory area, as a more important area within the fortress, its interior decoration and details are more exquisite. The biggest difference is that the fog dispersed in the space has become thicker under the orange-yellow light. The thick mist rolled and rose, just like in a fairyland. That was the wind and waves caused by the rapid flight of macro drones. They cooperated with the scientific research robots under Zero's control to quickly explore this vast area. At this point, Yongchang gradually began to have some guesses in his mind. This mist is probably the living environment of individuals in the 10th Empire. Just like humans must live in the air, individuals of the 10th Empire are very likely to live in the upper atmosphere of the ice giant. Time passes minute by minute. Modeling and holographic projection is also gradually improving. But the atmosphere in the command center gradually turned from excitement and anticipation to stiffness. Fang Zhu took a deep breath and exhaled it forcefully. You can tell his mood at this time from his slightly flushed face. Fraud. This is simply a scam. How can this be said to be a strong interaction material manufacturing area? Where's the device? Where's the product? Where's the assembly line? The screen switches to the giant holographic projection in front. After the fog's blocking effect was eliminated, the entire view of the manufacturing area was now very clear. Even more embarrassing than the outer areas in this area, there are only empty shells with a height of tens of meters. Yongchang can even find the shell of the console inside. Unlike the simplest consoles of human civilization, the console of the 10th Empire has a large number of control buttons. Yongchang made a rough estimate. If the console was scaled down, it would take at least 20 people to control the buttons on the console. He couldn't help but be curious about the individual appearance of the 10th Empire. There are just a bunch of empty shells here. Fang Zhu's wailing sound came from the side. Yongchang, whose thoughts were interrupted, glanced at Fang Zhu helplessly. Is it possible this was indeed a manufacturing area? Of course. What happened next? Fang Zhu stared blankly at the holographic projection in front of him. Then, the 10th Empire emptied it when they left. Yongchang shrugged. Many of the cutting devices outside were broken, and the technology was not high, so they kept it. Fangzhou. Obviously, it could be seen from his slightly distorted expression that it would take some time for him to get over this huge sense of loss with previous exploration experience. 0 quickly found the door to the next area point, same process as usual. The introverted. 10. Once again sent out assessment questions. Sure enough, as Lu Yongchang expected, the content of the assessment was related to time and space. He frowned and carefully examined the complex problems in the holographic projection point. If it were the previous human civilization, this question might have really stumped him. But in the war with enraged civilization, after seeing the space rift and temporarily creating a space-time tsunami, his understanding of space-time has improved a lot. Thanks to enraged civilization, he worked hard until his death and made great contributions to the development of human civilization. But even so, he hesitated and struggled several times when answering this question. Of course, answering this question itself also brought a lot of benefits to LV Yongchang. After all, this is a test question given by a higher civilization to a level 5 civilization. He can even use the test question to simply sort out the originally mixed space-time knowledge system. At the moment of submitting the answer, LV Yongchang couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Just like taking an exam in the Earth era. He chuckled and shook his head to put this feeling behind him. The time for judging the answer is getting longer and longer. The slightly flickering orange-yellow light, reflecting the slowly rolling fog, the motionless scientific research robot and the tightly closed door, formed a mysterious scene. Finally, the orange-yellow light stopped flickering. Enraged civilization, level 5 civilization. Civilized individuals are silicon-based biological beings, successfully passed all assessments. Visitor permission has been opened. The 10th Empire Mother Star Fortress welcomes you. P.S. Thanks to the Master Lunren Lungxi and to Bandit for sending the Great God certification. Chapter 790. Empire Expedition Plan. A few lines of white text slowly emerged in the Azure holographic projection in the command center of Earth. Everyone subconsciously held their breath. The assessment has been completed, and the visitor permission has been opened. Will the relics left by this advanced civilization finally be fully exposed to human civilization? Thinking of this, LV Yongchang looked at the holographic projection in front of him with full expectation. In the projection, the perspective of the scientific research robot was clearly presented. The orange-yellow light flickered like breathing, and the originally closed door slowly opened under the action of the force field. More and more dense fog surged out of it, gently hitting the scientific research robot and other mechanical devices waiting quietly in place. As the orange-yellow light gradually stabilized, a beam of light similar to the holographic projection was clearly reflected in the dense fog. It was a ripple pattern, which looked like some kind of floating object floating freely in the atmosphere. Its brightness and darkness kept changing, creating a floating visual effect. The pattern is very large. It covers almost all areas within 10 meters of the surface. From the perspective of the scientific research robot, these ripples floating up and down and drifting in the air are like rippling water waves, floating slowly around them. Even if the robot does not move at all, it gives people the illusion that they are moving forward. Although no one in the command center has ever seen such a scene, and even the meaning of this pattern is not marked in the dictionary sent by 10. Everyone present still understood this pattern at the first time. This is a signpost. Just like the arrow sign used by human civilization, it is guiding the scientific research robot in the direction of travel. It's just. LV Yongchang looked at the picture in the holographic projection, and the corners of his mouth twitched twice. It's just pointing the way. Is it necessary to make such a big fuss? But when he thought of the huge technological debris in the first two areas, he was relieved again. If the 10th Empire civilization individuals are very large, then these patterns, that seem to be so impressive to humans, may really be just some inconspicuous small icons on the ground in the eyes of the other party. Looking at the ripples that seemed to be urging him, LV Yongchang stopped thinking too much and directly gave the order to move forward. Under Zero's remote control, the research robot that had been staying in place took another step forward. Time passed slowly. Under the guidance of the immersive ripple signposts, The research robot walked through one area after another. The macro drone also took this opportunity to complete the exploration and modeling of each area. What surprised Yongchang was that the level I artificial intelligence 10 did not make any statement about the macro drone's wanton exploration and modeling behavior. This is very abnormal. How can you let the guests search every corner of the house at will, unless this house has been completely emptied long ago? The drone's modeling also confirmed Yongchang's conjecture. Like the strong interaction material manufacturing area, almost all areas were left with various empty shells. All valuable things were moved away. For this, 10 gave an explanation. Before leaving, the Empire took away all valuable items and devices. This explanation made Yongchang feel a bit complicated. It turned out that he was right. Those space rift cutting devices on the outermost periphery were really some worthless waste. Leave, Yongchang asked. 10. Why leave? The Milky Way is too small. 10 responded like this, looking at the line of text and the holographic projection. Yongchang's heart was shocked. After a moment of silence, he once again raised his assessment of the strength of the 10th Empire. The 10th Empire. What level of civilization is it? He asked tentatively. Time passed by, and 10 did not respond to his inquiry. It is normal for such a question to not get a response. Yongchang smiled and shook his head. Just as he was about to skip this question, a line of white text slowly appeared in the holographic projection. When leaving, it was a level 7 peak civilization. The current level of civilization is unknown. 100,000 years ago, the Mother Star Fortress completely lost contact with the Empire. In the command center, there was a sudden gasp. Although they had expected it, everyone was still shocked when they saw this answer. Yongchang calmed down and asked while the iron was hot, when did the Empire leave? This time, 10 quickly gave the answer. 250,000 years ago, the Empire's expedition plan was officially established. 201,000 years ago, after 400,000 years of preparation, the Empire officially set sail and left the Milky Way through the Milky Way Andromeda Bridge. The target, Andromeda Galaxy. This time, even Yongchang took a breath. 21,000 years ago was the peak civilization of level 7.0 now. He didn't dare to think about it any further. Suddenly, he noticed a sensitive time point in this information. 201,000 years ago. After pondering for a moment, he asked, 10 again, is it before the supernova explosion? Both the detection data of human civilization and the data of enriched civilization have sufficient evidence to prove that this nebula was produced 200,000 years ago. In other words, this vigorous supernova explosion occurred 200,000 years ago, that is, 10,000 years after the 10th Empire left. If there is no necessary connection between the two, at least Yongchang doesn't believe it. Yes. Perhaps because human civilization passed the assessment, or because they were judged to be silicon-based creatures. 10 patiently answered the questions raised by Yongchang. The Empire made an accurate prediction of the time of the supernova explosion. 25,000 years ago, when the Empire determined the expedition plan, it also tried to save the mother planet. At first, the Empire decided to take the mother planet to the Andromeda Galaxy. But considering the long journey and the huge energy consumption, the Empire gave up this plan. In the end, the project evolved into a mother planet defense plan. That is the planetary fortress you are currently seeing. The mother planet wrapped by the planetary fortress successfully resisted the supernova explosion. In the holographic projection, the translated text appeared little by little. Whether it was leading the mother planet to the Andromeda Galaxy or building a fortress to resist the supernova explosion at close range, every line of text deeply shocked the hearts of everyone present. Chapter 791 Short Distance Space Jump. The moment the last line of text appeared in the holographic projection, the wave-like floating pattern that had been surrounding the scientific research robot suddenly disappeared. There was no way forward in front of him. Zero immediately controlled the robot to stop. Before Yongchang asked, 10 new information had already appeared in the holographic projection. Enriched civilization. The outer industrial area of the Imperial Fortress has been visited. Do you want to go to the inner residential area of the fortress? LV Yongchang raised his eyebrows and was about to respond but the information from 10 came out all at once without any pause. Confirmed. Next, you will go to the Imperial residential area. Please note that the short distance space jump is about to start. Please turn off all space-time interference devices to ensure the stability of space-time in this area. Jump countdown. 10, 9, 8, right square bracket quote fuck, LV. Yongchang's face changed drastically. What the hell? Confirmed. He didn't confirm. Is there something wrong with this artificial idiot? And what is that space-time interference device? Does human civilization really have such a thing? Exclamation point left square bracket 7, 6, right square bracket quote I refuse. I refuse to go to the Empire's residential area, LV. Yongchang hurriedly sent a message of refusal to 10. 5, 4, right square bracket left square bracket the short distance space jump program has been activated and cannot be stopped. Right square bracket left square bracket 3, 2, 1, right square bracket left square bracket short distance space jump activated. Inside the ruins a strong light flashed, and at the same time, the surrounding space and time fluctuated violently. The scientific research robots standing quietly waiting all disappeared in the strong light. The outer area of the ruins regained tranquility again. The original orange-yellow light slowly went out at this time. The thick fog slowly rolled as before, quickly covering the traces left by the scientific research robot. The distorted picture gradually became clear. The surroundings were still similar scenes compared with the original. The fog at this time was already extremely thick. The visibility was so low that you couldn't see your hand in front of you. Under the light, the thick orange-yellow fog slowly rolled. It was as if a huge beast would jump out of it at any time, giving people a deep sense of deterrence and oppression. LV Yongchang sent a questioning message to 10 again and asked to return to the outer industrial area of the fortress. 10 did not respond to his inquiry. On the contrary, the floating ripple pattern that had disappeared appeared again in the fog, guiding the direction of the scientific research robot. He looked at the picture in the holographic projection with an uncertain expression and couldn't help feeling a little relieved in his heart. Fortunately, the name of the civilization is fake. The life attributes of the civilization are wrong. And even the explorers are fake. Keep moving forward. LV Yongchang gave the order with a gloomy look. Control the fleet to continue retreating. I want to see what tricks this artificial intelligence is playing. 0. Fully monitor all data interfaces and continue to try to find the other party's available data interface. Received. The information from 10 appeared again in the holographic projection, but it did not answer LV Yongchang's previous question. Short distance space jump has been completed. Enraged civilization, welcome to the internal residential area of the Imperial Fortress. Current distance from the center of mass of the Imperial Mother Planet. 35,000 kilometers. 35,000 kilometers. LV. Yongchang frowned and carefully checked the various data sent back by the scientific research robot. If the previous statistics are correct, the distance between the outer industrial area and the center of mass of the planet should be 60,000 to 65,000 kilometers. In other words, at that moment, the scientific research robots directly crossed a distance of more than 25,000 kilometers through short-distance space jump technology. More advanced curvature technology. Hebelin murmured in a low voice. The detection device did detect extremely strong space-time fluctuations. No, LV. Yongchang shook his head and denied Hebelin's statement. It's not just curvature technology. Don't forget, there is an obstacle between the two. Hebelan was shocked. He noticed this remarkable feature. Yes, curvature navigation cannot penetrate obstacles. That is to say, LV. Yongchang took over the conversation thoughtfully. Dimensional technology. To do this, I'm afraid we can only start from high-dimensional space-time. He couldn't help but think of the dispute between the pastoral school and the sweepers. The sweeper civilization searched for painting, seemingly to master two-dimensional technology. Dimension. This is probably the direction of research of the highest civilization. LV Yongchang said decisively. It seems that the 10th Empire has also dabbled in this area. One more thing. LV Yongchang stood up from his seat and reached out to touch the bottom of the holographic screen. Everyone, our scientific research robot seems to have arrived at the home planet of the 10th Empire. Unlike the outer industrial area, the scientific research robot is no longer standing on a smooth technological creation, but a dark grey land point. The uneven land surface has a rich porous structure point under the careful observation of the scientific research robot. Wisps of mist were drifting out of these porous structures. The land is very solid point, at least. It can easily bear the weight of the scientific research robot, 35,000 kilometers away from the center of mass, and it is such a native landform. What do you think of? LV Yongchang's eyes flashed. As we inferred before, the home planet of the 10th Empire is a relatively large ice giant. We are probably in the upper atmosphere of the ice giant at this time. Above our heads, there is a skydome with a height of more than 25,000 kilometers. This skydome is a planetary fortress built by the 10th Empire to block supernova explosions. At the same time, it is also their industrial zone. As LV Yongchang's voice fell, a holographic 3D model appeared in the holographic projection point. It was a layered concentric sphere model point. Inside, there is an ice giant with a diameter of more than 70,000 kilometers on the outermost edge. A shell with a thickness of more than 10,000 kilometers tightly wraps it point, perhaps to better block the radiation generated by the supernova explosion. There is a blank buffer layer of more than 25,000 kilometers between the shell and the ice giant. But why is there such a hard ground structure in the upper atmosphere of the ice giant? Tao Yuda was the first to ask his own question. This doesn't seem to be common sense. LV Yongchang shrugged and turned his head to look at the holographic projection. This question naturally has to be asked to the artificial idiot. It insisted on bringing us here, and there must be a reason behind it. P.S. Thanks to the 10th art for the Great God certification. Thanks to the Big Brother chapter 790 to floating land. In the holographic projection, the perspective of the scientific research robot followed the ripples floating up and down around it, and continued to move forward. Silence along silence. 10 did not respond to the inquiry information sent by human civilization until the ripples floating up and down around it completely disappeared until a huge light wall suddenly appeared in front of the scientific research robot The light wall was very high, or 1,000 meters high. From its imaging method, it can be judged that this is also a kind of road sign The meaning is also very simple and easy to understand. Stop moving forward, or in other words, no passage. Zero's reaction speed is needless to say almost at the same time as the light wall appeared. The scientific research robot was controlled to stop its forward steps in front of him. There was still an extremely thick fog but the detector had sounded the alarm The vast land came to an abrupt end a few thousand meters away from here. There was no road ahead. The information from 10 finally appeared again. This is the home planet of the 10th Empire, an ice giant with a diameter of 73,000 kilometers. Enraged civilization, you are in the upper atmosphere of this ice giant. LV Yongchang's eyes moved slightly, and a look of understanding appeared on his face. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as the information he deduced. Then, he calmly asked, 10, about this piece of land. This time, 10, frankly responded to the question of human civilization. These are the corpses of countless silicon-based plankton. Their bodies are very light, and have a large number of pore structures, so they can easily float in the upper atmosphere. When they are about to die, these plankton will gather together tightly. As time goes by, their corpses form pieces of floating land floating in the upper atmosphere. LV Yongchang stared at the information in the holographic projection, his eyes full of surprise. Biological floating land. He thought of many possibilities for the formation of land, but he never thought that such a large land was made by tiny silicon-based plankton. At LV Yongchang's signal, Link controlled a scientific research robot and walked cautiously to the edge of the floating land. Seeing that the scientific research robot was about to cross the light wall, 10 did not send a message to stop it. Obviously, this light wall only served as a reminder. LV Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief and asked Ling to speed up the pace of the scientific research robot. For the scientific research robot, the distance of thousands of meters passed in a flashpoint. It successfully reached the edge of this floating land point. The thick fog rolled and undulated point compared with the inside of the floating land. The thick fog outside the floating land was obviously more active. It lowered its head and pointed the camera forward. In the thick fog, there was no solid land point. The next moment, several macro drones rose from behind it, circled in the air, and dived straight to the world outside the floating land point. Because it was not clear how much the so-called visitor permission was, and in order not to anger the artificial idiot, the macro drone did not explore deeply, but only flew around the entire floating land point. As time slowly passed, the most basic mapping model appeared on the holographic projection point. This floating land is very large. Its surface area even far exceeds the land area of the Earth. The average thickness is also an astonishing 20 kilometers, and the thickest part is even more than 50 kilometers. The entire floating land is like an irregular floating island, following the turbulent atmospheric airflow around it, floating fast or slow in the vast sky point under Zero's control. The robot raised its head and aimed the camera and sensor at the sky above point. After combining various detection data and comprehensive analysis, Zero came to a simple conclusion. The orange-yellow light came from the sky above point. The huge shell outside the ice giant has completely replaced the role of the main star at this time, providing tremendous energy to this huge planet. This technology is not difficult, and even human civilization can do this. But Yongchang was still shocked by the scene in front of him. The reason is very simple. According to 10, this planetary fortress has existed for more than 200,000 years. During these 200,000 years, the fortress needs to constantly provide light and heat to the ice giant inside, while maintaining its own normal operation, and even resisting the damage caused by the supernova explosion. There is no doubt that the energy consumed during this period is an extremely terrifying astronomical figure. Yongchang suddenly experienced the strength of the 7th level peak civilization. After a moment of silence, Yongchang tried to ask 10 a deeper question. Can I know the information about the individual civilization of the 10th empire? The atmosphere fell into silence again. 10 did not respond to Yongchang's request immediately, as if judging something. Suddenly, a projection appeared in front of the scientific research robot. Those were dark gray barrel-shaped objects with a height of more than 30 meters. Yongchang, who was in Earth, looked at the dark gray image with a confused look on his face, and a bit of confusion appeared in his eyes. No, that's not a barrel-shaped object, that's a creature. When he saw dozens of long tentacles appearing at the bottom of those barrel-shaped objects, Yongchang suddenly widened his eyes. The length of the tentacles reached more than 20 meters. Under the support of the tentacles, the barrel-shaped trunks of more than 30 meters stood up straight. At this point, the overall height of these creatures reached more than 50 meters. Dozens of tentacles swayed gently, driving the barrel-shaped trunks above to move slowly forward. Although it was only video data, Yongchang could still feel the floating feeling of these creatures. When they walked, they didn't seem to be walking, but floating. Sure enough, the next moment, these tentacles bent slightly, and then pushed hard on the solid floating land. The barrel-shaped trunks of more than 50 meters broke away from the solid floating land, and flew straight into the sky. They rode the turbulent airflow and quickly floated outside the floating land. That's it. Yongchang suddenly realized, how could creatures living in the upper atmosphere not be able to fly? The projection slowly dissipated, and 10 also sent a message again. This is the video data of the Empire individual. They feed on free electrons in the atmosphere, and thunderstorms are the best time to hunt. The video footage in front of me shows the Empire individuals heading to the nearest thunderstorm site to feed. Yongchang swallowed hard. Then how do they communicate with each other? Electromagnetic waves. When the Empire individuals were born, they mastered electromagnetic wave technology. Aren't you both silicon-based life forms? Chapter 793. Another civilization. Looking at the bright white text and the holographic projection, Yongchang couldn't help but fall into silence. It's broken. It's exposed. Waiting online. Quite urgent. The quantum brain operates rapidly and quickly programs a plan. We haven't evolved such efficient means of communication. Information is mainly transmitted between individuals of the enriched civilization in the form of microcurrents. Later, in order to strengthen the credibility of this plan, Yongchang also asked Zero to demonstrate for him. Seeing the fingertips of the two scientific research robots touching each other and releasing a small amount of microcurrent, 10 suddenly realized this is indeed not an efficient means of communication. At the beginning of the evolution of civilization, you must have suffered a lot of trouble for this, right? Yongchang, I was chatted to death today. Yes, it is undeniable that electromagnetic wave communication is indeed an extremely efficient means of communication, especially for nascent civilizations, but microcurrent communication isn't that bad, right? Think about the way human civilization communicated in the past. Raw, beacon fire, letters. I can't bear to look at it. I can't bear to witness it. Yes, after mastering electromagnetic wave communication, our development speed can be accelerated. Even so, Yongchang pinched his nose and gave 10 a definite answer. 10 respond again. Your communication methods are very similar to them. Yongchang was stunned and stared blankly at the information in front of him. He suddenly couldn't understand the message sent by 10. They? Who are they? He hurriedly asked. 10. Is there a second civilization on this planet? Yongchang couldn't help but have some guesses in his heart. Is this the reason why 10 forcibly brought scientific research robots into residential areas? PLZ, follow me. Faced with various inquiries from Yongchang, 10 did not answer carefully, but just unfolded the guide signs again. Following the guide signs, the scientific research robot came to a platform. The construction style of the platform is completely consistent with the construction style of the fortress. It is not difficult to judge that this is a technological creation left behind by the 10th Empire. A few seconds later, a similar prompt message came again. Short distance space jump is about to start. Yongchang, who had experienced a space jump, looked at the scene in front of him with a calm expression. Once it comes, make peace with it. Since this artificial retard is determined to take the enriched civilization to a certain destination, then just follow it. After all, whether inside or outside the ruins, without finding a data interface, there is a high probability that human civilization will not be a match for this artificially retarded person. The moment the countdown ends, the jump starts. The picture sent back by the scientific research robot was distorted for a moment, and then stabilized again. The same floating land, the same platform and the same fog. But from the data transmitted back, it can be known that the scientific research robot at this time has arrived in another area. This time, it traveled 70,000 kilometers and arrived at the other side of the ice giant. All around, it was pitch black. But the next second, the orange-yellow light from the sky quietly lit up. Dawn. The guide signs appear again. The scientific research robot followed the sign and went deeper into the thick fog step by step. The fog is very thick. It is difficult to observe distant images simply by relying on a camera. Therefore, the picture inside Earth has already been switched to a simulated image generated based on the data returned by various detection sensors. The scientific research robot has been walking for a long time. Directly in front of the screen, on the originally flat floating land, an object obviously made by intelligent creatures suddenly appeared. Their surface is dark gray, like the floating land beneath their feet. According to the detection data returned by the detector, the structure of these objects is very similar to that of floating land. Obviously, the raw materials for making them most likely came from the floating land beneath their feet. They are not large in size, with an average height of about 5 meters compared with the Empire's creations, which are often tens of meters long. This scale can be called mini. From the appearance, these objects look a bit like the residence of some kind of creature. In terms of construction style, there is an obvious 10th Empire style, but there are many differences in details in front of these dark gray residences. There is a large-scale technological creation. The construction style is extremely obvious, and with just one glance, Yongchang can determine that it belongs to the creation of the 10th Empire. The reason this device is not made from the floating land beneath your feet. It's That simple point, seeing the creations that clearly belonged to two civilizations harmoniously presented before his eyes, Yongchang couldn't help but widen his eyes. He suddenly realized something and subconsciously held his breath, staring intently at the holographic image in front of him. The wall of light appeared again, blocking the progress of the scientific research robot. The next second, projections hit each scientific research robot accurately, disguising them as part of the floating land. At the same time, the message from 10 came again. Please don't disturb them. Yongchang suddenly realized as this to avoid causing panic within civilization. Judging from the picture just seen, this civilization has a relatively low level of evolution. They have not even entered the industrial age. In a sense, they are like Neolithic humans. The creations of a high level civilization will have a great impact on this low level civilization. This can be seen from the construction style of the other party's houses. All their buildings are imitating the devices left by the 10th Empire. Time passed by minute. The change appeared. One by one, the moving creatures emerged from the 5-meter high houses. Their appearance is not much different from the individuals of the 10th Empire. From the appearance alone, they are a bit like upright jellyfish. But that is definitely not a jellyfish. Their bodies have the unique characteristics of silicon-based creatures. The surface of the silicon-based body flashes a unique luster under the reflection of the orange-yellow light. Perhaps because of the free electrons in the atmosphere, their skin flashes a faint light like a signal light. Like the individuals of the 10th Empire, they also walk with tentacles, but their walking posture does not have that kind of elegant feeling. Obviously, they cannot fly and are terrestrial natives on this floating land. There are two slender tentacles on top of their heads under everyone's gaze. These silicon-based jellyfish approached each other and moved their slender tentacles closer together. Flashing arcs appeared between the tentacles. The information exchange between individuals was completed at this moment. This is also a unique advantage of silicon-based organisms. Just like computers, their brains think much faster than ordinary carbon-based organisms. Civilization can also achieve rapid evolution. P.S. Thanks to the master of the 10th art for the certification. The master is confused. The master is awesome. Chapter 794 10 Descendants. Under the cover of the projection, the scientific research robot seemed to have really become a rock protruding from the floating land. Those silicon-based jellyfish did not notice the existence of the scientific research robot at all. They stood on the floating land, quietly gazing at the group of silicon-based jellyfish in the distance. Various sensors quickly transmitted the detected data to Earth. Silicon-based jellyfish average total height 3.65 meters, average tentacle length 3 meters, average head height 0.65 meters. They are much taller than humans, but compared with the civilized individuals of the 10th Empire, they are still as small as pets. The information of 10 came again. 10 descendants. This is the name I gave them. Yongchang's eyes moved slightly. The superficial meaning of the name is easy to understand. The descendants of the 10th Empire, referred to as 10 descendants, but the deeper meaning of the name seems a bit meaningful. Descendants. This weak artificial intelligence actually regarded these silicon-based jellyfish as descendants of the 10th Empire. At this moment, even if the civilization level of these silicon-based jellyfish is equivalent to that of humans in the Stone Age, in the eyes of this weak artificial intelligence named 10, their importance is probably much higher than that of human civilization. Let alone human civilization. Yongchang believes that even a level 6 civilization, in the eyes of the Fortress artificial intelligence, has a lower priority than that group of jellyfish. Reincarnation is indeed a technical job. He couldn't help but sigh. Fang Zhu nodded seriously. Yes, with the guidance of this weak artificial intelligence, this group of silicon-based jellyfish can avoid too many detours. Yongchang hesitated. Taking fewer detours on the road of civilization development is actually nothing. Human civilization has not taken too many detours. The most important point is that they are destined to be difficult or not encounter threats from higher civilizations when they grow up under the umbrella of protection. Who dares to provoke a civilization that is suspected to be the descendant of level 8 civilization? Are you tired of living? Yongchang took a deep breath. At this time, he had vaguely realized the purpose of 10. Abnormal behavior before point. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be related to the group of silicon-based jellyfish in front of him. So, he asked. 10. Again, didn't the Empire take them with it when it left? When it comes to 10 descendants, 10's response seems to be particularly quick. At that time, they had not yet evolved wisdom. 10,000 years ago, during the daily inspection of the status of the mother planet, I found that they had elementary wisdom. They use the broken floating land fragments to make the simplest tools. At the same time, they developed a unique and lasting curiosity about the various devices left by the Empire. LV Yongchang's face suddenly showed a surprised expression. 10,000 years. It only took 10,000 years to develop from elementary wisdom to the Stone Age. This speed is much faster than humans. Is this the natural advantage of silicon-based creatures? The communication method of these jellyfish is still the inefficient macrocurrent communication. What kind of development speed should the 10th Empire, which has mastered electromagnetic wave communication since its birth, have? It's hard to imagine. He swallowed his saliva and suppressed the shock in his heart. The information of 10 did not end, and it continued to appear in the holographic projection at a constant speed. According to the Imperial Intelligent Life Protection Act, the protection level of primary intelligent creatures is limited to maintaining their living environment. But as time goes by, the evolution speed of the 10th descendants is getting faster and faster, and they have medium intelligence. This is a very rare phenomenon. Lu Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. It's easy to understand. Most creatures will stop evolving after they have low-level intelligence. After all, only a few life forms grow into high-level intelligent creatures. According to the law, their protection level has been increased by 2 levels. I not only need to maintain their living environment, but also ensure that their population reproduces and expands normally. Until 1,000 years ago, they officially possessed high-level intelligence. They have a complete language system and writing system. According to the imperial law, this is a sign that a nascent civilization is maturing. So far, the protection of the 10 descendants has reached the highest level. At the same time, it triggered the hidden instructions left by the Empire. When the next civilization appears on this planet, I need to guide them to grow, and when the time is right, absorb them as a member of the Alliance. Bright light came from outside the dark gray house. The visual sensor located above my head transmitted the electrical signal to the core of my mind. After a moment of thinking, an astonishing conclusion appeared in my core. It's dawn. It's dawn? How is this possible? The night occurred 0.4536 standard days ago. Under normal circumstances, it should be late at night now. But why is there a warm light coming from outside? I subconsciously stretched out my tentacles that were originally curled up. With its support, I stood up from the warm and porous surface. Subconsciously, I swung my tentacles and walked out of the dark gray hut. Yes. The visual sensor was not malfunctioning. The sky was indeed bright. I looked up, and the orange-yellow mist under the light covered the sky tightly, and the whole sky showed a strange orange color. This scene has been maintained for who knows how many years, at least since I can remember. The sky has been this lifeless and unchanging. But I still looked up, feeling the warmth. No, it shouldn't be like this. There is a legend passed down by word of mouth in the population. According to legend, in ancient times, there were countless bright little spots in the sky. Those bright spots only appear at night. As for the daytime, a small ball of light will appear in the sky. Under the cover of fog, these bright spots and balls of light appear extremely hazy, but also extremely beautiful. This legend without any basis. Most people in the population do not believe. But I is different. I believe from the bottom of my heart that the sky should not be such a monotonous existence. Just like the porous earth under my feet and the howling storm on the edge of the earth, the sky should also be a mysterious and powerful existence. Like me, some people in the tribe also have this belief. We often get together and try to study those small bright spots that only exist in ancient times and appear only at night through the legends passed down by word of mouth. The orange-yellow light and waves of warmth stimulate my senses, and waves of electric current signal surge throughout my body, causing the surface of my skin to glow with warm colors, but this still cannot change the fact that today is a bad day. The concentration of diffuse electrons in the atmosphere is very thin, which means that it is almost impossible for us to wait for thunderstorms. That is the best source of food for the population. I couldn't help but feel a little depressed in my mind, and the originally upright tentacles became weak at this moment. Chapter 795 Silicon-based alliance. Just when I was frustrated, a tentacle stretched out from the side. I subconsciously raised a tentacle and touched it. A weak electric current came. Some information appeared in my core. The content of the information was very simple. Because the weather has been too bad recently for the stable development of the tribe leader has decided to start the prayer ceremony today. Pray to the gods for a good weather to eat, and also pray to the gods for some artifacts that can store food. The original artifacts in the tribe are no longer enough as the number of people in the tribe slowly increases. I subconsciously looked into the distance. It was an extremely huge thing. It was a platform for communicating with the gods, and it was also a bridge for the gods to bestow gifts on the tribe. God is omnipotent. He can create thunderstorms out of thin air, and he can also create various artifacts out of thin air, but the gods often do not respond to their prayers. Only when the tribe is really in trouble will he lend a helping hand to the tribe. A trace of confusion suddenly arose in my core. It seems that God has been watching us. No matter how far the tribe has developed, he always knows where the limit of the tribe is. My thought process was transmitted to my companions by the microcurrent. The next second, another microcurrent came. I was relieved. Yes, that is God. God is omnipotent. Alliance. Hearing this sensitive word, Yongchang sat up subconsciously in the earth, and his expression became solemn. What? Alliance? 10. Answered the question directly without any hesitation. Silicon-based alliance. The Silicon-based alliance, led by the 10th Empire, was established 150,000 years ago. As of 100,000 years ago, when the fortress lost contact with the Empire, the Silicon-based alliance already had 13 member civilizations. Yongchang's heart jumped. After the sweepers, pastoralists, and neutralists, another top force in the universe has emerged in human cognition. He did not have much doubt about the strength of the Silicon-based alliance. After all, with the 10th Empire, which is suspected to be an 8th level civilization, in charge, the strength of this force is definitely top-notch. I just don't know what the relationship between this Silicon-based alliance and the first three factions is. In order to conform to the vast identity of human civilization, he asked tentatively, can we join this alliance? According to information from 150,000 years ago, the entry threshold of the Silicon-based alliance is a 6th level civilization. When you successfully become a 6th level civilization, I can help you send an application to the Empire. But there is no guarantee that you will get a response. Yongchang. Damn. The entry threshold is a 6th level civilization, and the civilized individuals are required to be silicon-based creatures. Can 13 civilizations be gathered under such harsh conditions? Is the Andromeda Galaxy so rich, or did the 10th Empire not develop in the Andromeda Galaxy? Yongchang didn't speak, thinking about all kinds of information in his mind. Don't be discouraged. You can pass the previous 3 tests to prove that you have the potential to become a level 6 civilization. Develop with peace of mind. Sooner or later, your name will be left in the Milky Way. Enraged civilization. Yongchang's mouth twitched. Perhaps he felt something was strange, so he quickly turned his eyes to the holographic projection point, looking at the silicon-based jellyfish that were converging towards the Imperial Legacy device. Yongchang's eyes suddenly lit up. What are they doing? He asked 10. I followed the tribe and walked towards the altar is the name of the mysterious big thing in the tribe. As time passed, I got closer and closer to the altar, and various sensors distributed around me also sent various electrical signals. The material used to make the altar is very strange, not like the material on the floating land. But this also shows the power of the gods. It has a complex shape, like a small mountain, quietly sitting on the dark grey floating land. At the top of it, there is a disc-shaped structure point in the disc. There are densely packed and various complex structures. Every time the tribe prays to the gods and the gods respond, there will be some flickering in these complex structures. I don't understand the connection, but it doesn't prevent me from following the tribe. To pray point the ceremony began. Point the tribesmen raised several of their tentacles. I looked around and raised 5 tentacles without affecting my own standing. There are 5 tribesmen around me. Point the tentacles are connected to each other, connecting all the tribesmen together. Complex microcurrents are transmitted between the tribes through the tentacles, and various complex information emerges at the core point. That is a string of prayers to the gods at the same time. The bodies of all the tribesmen began to sway slowly, just like the disordered storm at the edge of the land. The swaying of the bodies did not have any obvious pattern. God, please grant the 10 clan good weather. I followed the tribe and prayed in the core point. 10 descendants. I vaguely remember that this was the name given to the tribe by the gods when they first responded to the prayer. Since then, although they did not understand the meaning, they still called themselves 10 descendants. The microcurrent was transmitted along the tentacles to the surroundings until it reached the tribe leader at the front of the formation point. Unlike the actions of other tribesmen, it carefully placed its tentacles on the altar point. Then, it guided all the microcurrent information sent by all the tribesmen to the altar point. They praying to me. LV Yongchang looked at the response information of 10 in astonishment. Pray, yes. Pray for food. Pray for the necessities to maintain the development of the tribe. Deified. LV Yongchang understood. This is almost the inevitable result after the contact between high civilization and low civilization. Whether it is fear or longing, the huge difference in strength caused by the huge difference in technological level will inevitably evolve into a deification phenomenon. This situation is most common in ignorant civilizations that have not yet become interstellar civilizations. PS. Thanks to the 10th art for sending the Great God certification. The big guy's awesome. JPG. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 796 Miracle. LV Yongchang looked at the picture in the holographic projection with interest. He could even imagine the state of this civilization named 10 Descendants after it grew up. Since the birth of civilization, it has grown under the guidance of 10 and regarded the 10th empire as a god. The characteristics of silicon-based creatures allow them to quickly pass through the early stage of civilization. This will be the best subordinate civilization. He suddenly understood why 10 did not let the scientific research robot disturb them in order to ensure the purity of belief. However, there is one thing he does not understand very well. According to the data sent back by the scientific research robot, the unknown technological creation near the 10 Descendants tribe is not big. At a height of more than 50 meters, it can only be regarded as a normal size creation for the 10th empire. Individuals from the information given by 10, this unknown technological creation can create food and other necessities for 10 descendants. The former is easy to understand. For silicon-based civilizations, or thunderstorm is enough for them to get enough food. But the latter, is this technological creation a huge warehouse? But this does not make sense. After all, the things in the warehouse are limited, and in order to maintain its own mystery, 10 cannot frequently replenish the materials in the warehouse. Moreover, as the legacy of 10th empire, neither 10 nor 10th empire can foresee and prepare all kinds of suitable materials for a weak civilization that will appear more than 100,000 years later. Lu Yongchang couldn't help showing a deep confusion in his eyes. Could this be the special technology mastered by the 7th level civilization? Thinking of this, he was refreshed and looked at the picture in the holographic projection more and more attentively. The prayer ceremony came to an end temporarily. I looked up and looked at the top of the altar point at this time. The altar did not show any signs of movement, as if nothing had happened. The microcurrents that were personally transmitted into it by the tribe leader just now were like a drop in the ocean, without stirring up any waves. But I was not frustrated, but continued to stare at the top of the altar point according to past experience of sacrifice. The gods need some time to judge the status of the tribe. He will only lend a helping hand when he is sure that the development of the tribe is severely restricted. Time passed by. Suddenly. The sensor on the head sent a weak electrical signal to my mind core. There was something abnormal at the disc on the top of the altar. A faint flickering light emerged from the complex structure inside it. The faint light danced briskly, as if an invisible big hand was moving the disc. A familiar microcurrent signal came from the sensors around him. Driven by this microcurrent signal, the mind core showed a strong sense of joy. The free electrons in the atmosphere are increasing. A thunderstorm is coming. He responded to the request of the 10 descendants again. The tribe that noticed this quickly became excited, and intense microcurrent signals flashed on the interconnected tentacles. Everyone was sharing their excitement with the tribesmen around them. Time passed by bit by bit. When the concentration of free electrons in the atmosphere reached a critical point, a dazzling light suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. A thick lightning came from the distant sky and hit the altar directly. The concentration of free electrons around began to rise exponentially under their stimulation. The light flashing on the skin of me and the surrounding tribesmen began to become brighter and brighter. The tentacles of all tribesmen were connected to each other like a neon light belt surrounding the altar, and the light rose and fell. Under the reflection of the neon light belt, thunders like dancing golden snakes began to wander in the sky. This is an excellent weather. The 10 descendants who have been hungry for a long time tried their best to absorb the free electrons in the atmosphere to replenish their energy. At the same time, some older 10 descendants took out cylindrical objects from the tribe and placed them on the edge of the altar. The golden snake in the sky kept bombarding the altar and then broke into tiny arcs. Most of the arcs disappeared inexplicably in the altar. A small part of them flowed along the altar into the cylindrical devices. Looking at the orange-yellow light that began to flash on the cylinders, I felt even more joy in my mind. Compared to good weather, these cylindrical objects from the gods are the hope for the survival and expansion of the tribe. They can store the power of thunderstorms. Then, when the weather is bad, they can slowly release free electrons to the outside world. Its appearance has increased the number of the 10 clan population by hundreds of times. This is simply a miracle. I admired the power of God from the bottom of my heart. But I knew in my heart that compared with what happened next, these were not real miracles. Time continued to pass. The dancing golden snake in the sky gradually dissipated, leaving only an extremely rich free electron. The whole prayer ceremony also entered its climax. In an atmosphere filled with free electrons, the strong microcurrents passing through the tentacles even caused some flickering electric arcs. A slight rumbling sound was also heard from the altar. It started. The real miracle has begun. I excitedly cast my eyes towards a concave platform at the bottom of the altar. The rumbling sound gradually stopped, and a unique wave came from the altar. That was the voice of the gods. The sensor could not receive this unique wave very well. The vague electrical signal was transmitted to the core of my thinking. In my perception, it was just a series of vague and meaningless murmurs. Although I couldn't understand this special wave, I could still perceive that this wave seemed to be similar to the microcurrent signal. In the murmur of the gods, the platform slowly sank. When it rose again, 10 brand new cylindrical artifacts appeared in front of the tribe. When the tribesmen came forward to carry it away, the platform sank again. This went back and forth 10 times. A full 100 artifacts from the microcurrent signals transmitted from the tentacles. I can clearly sense the thoughts of the tribesmen. This prayer ceremony is perfect. The gods have generously given sufficient supplies, and the tribe will expand and develop again. Praise the gods. I'll listen to the murmurs of the gods in the altar and admire them sincerely. Different from those silicon-based jellyfish. After obtaining the perfect dictionary information of the 10th Empire, human civilization can understand the electromagnetic wave information emitted by the unknown device. This energy matter conversion has been successfully completed. Warning. Current energy remaining 0.01%. Insufficient energy. Please replenish energy immediately. Warning. Fault code QZ135, LC422, ATZ1369. No available replacement parts detected. No self-repair robot detected. And the fault code has been uploaded to the Fortress main brain. No available energy path detected. The system will automatically enter sleep mode. Chapter 797 Mass Energy Conversion Technology. The information translated by the program was clearly presented in the huge holographic projection of Earth in just a few lines of information. The information contained was very huge. After a brief thought, LV Yongchang immediately understood the general mechanism of the miracle just now. Due to the long time, the original energy supply system has collapsed. In desperation on 10 can only provide energy to the device left by the Empire through the fortress built outside the ice giant. At the same time, it creates thunderstorm weather for the group of silicon-based jellyfish. It can be said to kill two birds with one stone. As for the function of the device, it is already obvious. Converting pure energy into matter. It is precisely because of this that 10 can make various necessities for the group of silicon-based jellyfish. As for what those cylindrical devices are, they are just some large high-end batteries that can release stored electricity autonomously according to the program. The originally quiet command center suddenly became noisy at this moment. Mass energy conversion technology, LV. Yongchang took a breath of cool air and muttered in a low voice. The mass energy equation is a technology that the first level civilization has mastered. But until now, humans can only achieve a unilateral conversion from matter to energy. If antimatter is not mastered, humans cannot even convert mass into energy 100%. It is no exaggeration to say that for the current human beings, this scene is not much different from a miracle. As you can see, the prayer ceremony was declared over, and the message of 10 came. At first, there was sufficient energy in the fortress, various self-repair robots, and various replacement repair parts. The mass energy conversion device can also produce a small number of low-precision devices. Resisting the supernova explosion and the aftermath of the explosion consumed a lot of energy. As time went on, the energy path was gradually damaged, the replacement parts were gradually consumed, and even the mass energy conversion device was left with only the most basic functions. The power of time is huge. Even the technological creation of the 7th level peak civilization seemed vulnerable in the time span of 200,000 years. The 10 descendants are developing faster and faster, and the resources they need are also increasing dramatically. Before they have the ability to leave this ice giant, all resource consumption needs to be borne by the mother planet fortress. Today's fortress can hardly maintain the normal operation of the ice giant ecosystem, and it is also difficult to ensure the normal development of the 10 descendants. According to the Imperial Life Protection Act, the Imperial Mother Planet Entry and Exit Management Regulations, the Imperial Assets Handling Regulations, the Imperial Mastermind's underlying logic, 5,000 years ago, I opened the port of the Imperial Mother Planet Fortress. The text that appeared line by line in the holographic projection came to a temporary end. The atmosphere in the command center became more and more solemn. Is the real purpose finally revealed? Lu Yongchang's expression became serious. The antimatter engine power of the fleet has been increased to the highest point. After a long voyage, the scientific research fleet has basically left the gravitational field of the neutron star under his command. The curvature engine has begun to warm up. If the situation is not right, Zero will physically cut off the communication link between those scientific research robots and experimental ships as soon as possible. At the same time, the fleet will directly enter the superluminal curvature state under the impetus of the curvature engine. Only a few irrelevant clues were left to the weak artificial intelligence. The main point is to hide. LV Yongchang took a deep breath and let the Zero-controlled scientific research robot send a straightforward message. What do we need to do? 10 gave an extremely simple answer. The energy reserve of the mass energy conversion device has been exhausted. The current energy replenishment method is too inefficient. I hope you can directly replenish its energy. At the same time, replace some basic accessories for it. The Empire advocates equal transactions. In exchange, you can take away those space rift cutting devices. LV Yongchang. That's it. So simple. Only this request? He asked, 10, in disbelief. Yes, for you at present, this is the only requirement. A faint sense of contempt gushed out from the holographic projection point. Hardened point. The fist hardened point. Who are you looking down on? Although he felt a little aggrieved, he still sent a message. Okay, I agree to this transaction on behalf of the enraged civilization, according to the information given by 10. After 200,000 years of loss, there are no self-repair robots that can be used normally in the Mother Star Fortress at this time point. Therefore, the current 10 is actually a bit like a paralyzed patient in bed. Point. It can only know the various faults that have occurred in various parts of the Mother Star Fortress, but it is unable to repair them. Point. But even so, Yongchang still did not relax his vigilance against it. Point. People just don't have self-repair robots, but it doesn't say there is no weapon system. Judging from the space rift cutting device, even the most rubbish weapons are not something that today's human civilization can resist. Point. Therefore, in order to safely get the batch of cutting devices, Yongchang decided to be a coolie. Point. Isn't it just to refuel the other party? What's the difficulty? Until the other party sent a specific request. LV Yongchang thought. So point. Let's not talk about the various toolkits that need to be temporarily manufactured to meet the standards of the 10th Empire, and various basic accessories with extremely high precision requirements. The energy demand alone surprised LV Yongchang. He widened his eyes and looked at the information in front of him in disbelief. What the hell? This thing is so gluttonous, perhaps considering the mainstream energy of human civilization today. 10. Thoughtfully chose antimatter as the energy standard. Point. It's not too much. Point. According to preliminary estimates, as long as the reserve energy of Earth is drained, its requirements can be met. Point. In the command center of Earth, LV Yongchang and everyone looked at each other. Point. In the strange eyes of everyone, LV Yongchang gritted his teeth and gave an order. First extract antimatter from the experimental ship, then let the expedition fleet send us some supplies. P.S. Thanks to the great certification of the 10th art boss, even if I'm dead and nailed in the coffin, I will shout in the grave with my rotten vocal cords. Big Boss is awesome. Chapter 798 Console and Data Transmission Channel. The document issued by 10 obviously fully considered the construction capabilities of a normal level 5 civilization. Point. The accuracy standards of those toolkits and basic accessories have almost reached the current limit of human civilization. Point. Of course, for the devices left by the 10th Empire, this may be the most basic requirement. Point. Otherwise, 10 would not have set up the 3 screening procedures as a level 2nd artificial intelligence. 0 cannot solve the problem of processing accuracy. Point. Therefore, the processing and manufacturing process of various high precision accessories consumed a lot of time. Point. Considering the efficiency issue, the energy replenishment and basic maintenance work of the mass energy conversion device were put together a week later. An experimental ship carrying a large amount of antimatter and various precision accessories left the scientific research fleet and drove at full speed towards the Imperial Fortress under the impetus of the antimatter engine. Point. The space-time fluctuations caused by short-distance space jumps continued to emerge inside the fortress. Each space jump will transport some robots and some materials to the floating land, where the silicon-based jellyfish are located. Point. In order not to affect the normal development of silicon-based jellyfish and the purity of their faith, this emergency maintenance plan was put on the standard night of the Empire's mother planet. Point. At the same time, 10 remotely lowered the concentration of free electrons in the area where the silicon-based jellyfish were located through the mother planet fortress, and turned off those large batteries. When the concentration of free electrons dropped to a certain level, the silicon-based jellyfish would enter a dormant state similar to biological hibernation. Point. After all the preparations were completed, the Enraged Maintenance Brigade, composed of thousands of scientific research robots, officially headed for the target area on the Planeta relanding vehicle. Point. In addition to scientific research robots. This group of planetary landing vehicles was also loaded with a large number of antimatter storage tanks looking at the transport convoy lined up in neat formations in the holographic projection and driving fast on the dark grey floating land. Yongchang suddenly thought of something and his eyes became strange. If he gave an order to release these antimatter at the same time, even the fortress built by the 7th level peak civilization might not be able to withstand such a blow. After all, the interior of the fortress is always the easiest to break point. Although he said so, when he thought about letting the transport convoy carry such a huge amount of antimatter into the ice giants, 10, at will, Yongchang's thoughts suddenly wavered. Perhaps the other party is really capable of resisting this kind of explosion from the inside. This thought that surprised even himself suddenly came to Yongchang's mind. The next second, he completely suppressed his desire to make trouble. Time passed. Slowly. The transport convoy formed by the planetary landing vehicle successfully arrived at the destination under the guidance of the corrugated road signs. The night was deep. The sky 25,000 kilometers away from the floating land was now pitch black, without even a trace of light. The high power searchlights of the scientific research robot and the planetary landing vehicle became the only light source at this time and place. In the thick white fog, the light emitted by the searchlight clearly presented straight light paths because of the Tyndall effect. In the distance, the tribe built by dark grey houses was quiet, without any movement. Under the advanced arrangement of 10, these silicon-based jellyfish had already fallen into a dormant state. Click, click, the floating land under the feet of the scientific research robots made some crisp sounds, which were particularly clear in the silent night. They walked towards the target of this maintenance mission with a clear goal: the mass energy conversion device. Although it was the first time to repair the technological creation of the 7th level civilization, it was not a difficult task for Zero, who got the maintenance manual. Especially after millions of simulations in the central computer under Zero's control. These scientific research robots quickly opened the maintenance channel of the mass energy conversion device. After getting the so-called maintenance manual, Yongchang was surprised to find that this huge equipment of more than 50 meters was just the tip of the iceberg of the complete device. The part exposed on the surface was just the tip of the iceberg, occupying only about 10% of the volume of the entire device. The rest was all hidden in the floating land under his feet, including the so-called energy channel. Therefore, just like replenishing its energy, it is not an easy task to repair this mass energy conversion device. The maintenance channel goes straight down, like a deep well. This also conforms to the appearance characteristics of the individuals of the 10th Empire. They are like barrels, and they can just fall into the spacious space at the bottom along this maintenance channel. For the petite scientific research robots of human civilization, this is even less of a problem. After opening the maintenance channel, they hold antimatter containers that are larger than their own heads and jump into this huge deep well without hesitation. With the help of the grand unified field, the robot falls at a uniform speed and then lands smoothly in the huge cavity inside it. It is a huge cavity with a height of more than 450 meters. The cavity is filled with various parts and devices of unknown use. Under the connection of energy pathways, they together form a set of precise and complex mass energy conversion devices. A unique beauty brought by an unfamiliar design concept is clearly reflected in front of everyone, impacting everyone's world viewpoint. But Yongchang's focus is not on these but those control consoles that are flashing signal lights. And in normal working order, as the saying goes, if there is a control console, there must be a data transmission channel. If there is a data transmission channel, there is room for Zero to play. Yongchang's originally calm heartbeat suddenly became intense at this moment. An idea that was previously abandoned, like a spark that hit pure oxygen, instantly ignited. Or, let Zero try to invade the other party's system. If this succeeds, human civilization can directly obtain the database and mother star fortress of the 7th level peak civilization. Yongchang, Fang. Zoo's slightly strange voice sounded beside him, interrupting his imagination. I said, you don't want to do anything to 10, do you? Cough. Yongchang, whose thoughts were revealed in one sentence, coughed with an embarrassed expression. Of course not. Looking at the meaningful eyes cast at him by the surrounding scientific researchers at the same time. LV Yongchang laughed awkwardly. Well, I admit that there is indeed a little bit. Fang Zhu was not surprised by this answer. Those who are close to vermilion will be red, and those who are close to ink will be black. Point. When he saw the control consoles operating normally, the same thought flashed through his mind. Point. But as a deputy, he still needed to fulfill his duties. To properly remind LV Yongchang of the risks behind this matter, Fang Zhu frowned slightly and organized his words. Although 10 is only a weak artificial intelligence, the 10th empire behind it, human civilization, has currently provoked the tip-top forces of the sweepers in the pastoral school. If we make enemies with the 10th empire. Chapter 799 Unknown data intrusion detected. Lu Yongchang looked helpless and sighed softly. Fang Zhu's words were exactly where he was struggling. If he hadn't been concerned about the long-lost 10th empire, he would have given Zero the invasion order when he saw the console. And Fang Zhu changed the topic. Yongchang, are you sure of absolute success? Even if the opponent is only a level like artificial intelligence, it still has the home field advantage. If the invasion fails. At this point, Fang Zhu shrugged. I'm afraid we don't have to wait for the 10th empire to take action. 10th can easily deal with us. Lu Yongchang's face changed slightly. Perhaps it was because human civilization had never suffered a loss in terms of computers before, especially after the 7th level civilization. Painting was easily solved by Zero. He seemed to have a habitual thought in his mind. In terms of computers, level 2nd artificial intelligence 0 is invincible. Although no counterexample has been found so far. Could this idea be correct? There are definitely problems with this idea. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath, quickly reflected on his wrong thoughts, and then corrected his attitude. You're right. Lu Yongchang nodded. Human civilization already has enough enemies. To be on the safe side, we need to have a good relationship with the possible 10th empire. Zero, abandon all original invasion plans. The scientific research robot methodically places the antimatter container into the designated area. Afterwards, the failed basic parts were replaced bit by bit according to the maintenance plan provided by 10. Among them, the most important basic part is located in the core control area of the mass energy interconversion device. According to the plan of 10. In the process of replacing this part, the scientific research robot also needs to interact with it to a certain extent. In Lu Yongchang's original plan, the invasion of 10 started from this moment. But now, scientific research robots are just completing a series of data input tasks. Seeing that the maintenance work, which lasted for more than a week, was gradually coming to an end, Lu Yongchang subconsciously smacked his lips. It's hard to get this batch of goods. Not only did he pay a lot of antimatter, but he also worked as a coolie for 10 for such a long time. When has human civilization ever suffered such injustice? However, Lu Yongchang was still happy when he saw the experimental ships loaded with space rift cutting devices successfully leaving the Empire's home star fortress. Just for some energy and inconsequential productivity, you can get such a huge reward. Please feel free to experience more such grievances. While Lu Yongchang was thinking about how to dismantle and study these space rift cutting devices, an unknown data stream quietly flowed along the line into the scientific research robot that was completing the last bit of repair work. Drip, drill, drill. A piercing siren sounded in the command center, and at the same time, the blue holographic projection instantly turned into blood red. Warning. Unknown data intrusion detected. Autonomous defense procedures have been activated. Intrusion. Data coordinates locked. Do you want to perform the link physical disconnection procedure? Lu Yongchang, who was interrupted from his thoughts, had no time to react, and subconsciously looked at the coordinates presented in the holographic projection point. When he saw the data invasion coordinates located inside the Imperial Fortress, Lu Yongchang's face suddenly turned ugly. Fooled. Was everything in the past a preparation for the current invasion? When humans want to invade the other party's computer, the other party also wants to invade the central computer of human civilization? Damn it. Lu Yongchang gritted his teeth and shouted sternly, defend immediately. Use The physical cut-off procedure is a last resort. Never allow the other party to invade further. It is rude to come and go without reciprocating. Point. Since the other party has chosen to take action, human civilization is not a vegetarian. 0. Try to counterattack. Invade the opponent's central computer. The moment the order was issued, Zero's computing power usage began to rise rapidly. Point. According to the order of priority from low to high, a large number of projects and programs that occupy Zero computing power are stopped one after another. Even various research and calculation programs that had never stopped within the Academy of Sciences were urgently stopped. Point. This moment. More than 70% of the computing power of human civilization is concentrated here, and is concentrated in that small scientific research robot through the Tachyon communication network. Point. This is a war without smoke. Point. The data flow from 10 is fighting with 0 invisible to the naked eye. Time passes minute by minute. Point. The expression on Lu Yongchang's face became more and more solemn. Point. The investment in computing power is increasing. From just now to now, Zero has used more than 90% of the computing power, but it is still unable to achieve an effective breakthrough against the defense network built by 10. It doesn't mean that the opponent's strength exceeds 0, nor does it mean that 10's intelligence exceeds level II. Point. During the attack and defense just now, a very abnormal situation occurred. Point. Under unit computing power, the strength of the defense network built by 10 is far inferior to the offensive strength of 0. Point. The gap between the two is huge, which also proves that 10 is indeed just a level I artificial intelligence. Point. But 0 still couldn't break through 10's defense to complete the reverse invasion. Point. The reason is simple. 10. The computing power that can be used is too huge. Point. If 0 used 1 computing power, then 10 used at least 1000 computing power resources. Even as the frequency of 0's attacks gradually increases, the computing power resources used by 10 are even growing. Not only that, but an even weirder scene also appeared. 10's desire to attack is not strong. Even after 0 started a full-scale counterattack, it stopped its intrusion and was only engaged in unilateral defense. Point. Lu Yongchang frowned immediately after seeing the situation clearly. Point. It shouldn't be. According to the current situation of this data war, as long as 10 is willing, it is completely possible to win with quantity to directly crush 0 with huge computing power, but it didn't do that. 0. Suspend the attack. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Lu Yongchang issued this order: defend with all your strength, and be prepared to physically cut off. Hearing these words, Mo Xiang, who was sitting not far away, suddenly stood up from his seat. Professor, you wait a minute. Lu Yongchang looked calm and shouted in a deep voice, the other party's purpose does not seem to be invasion. P.S. Thanks to the 10th art boss for the master certification. Thanks to Mr. Silverger for the master certification. I don't know what to say. Let's give the boss a split. Point. JPG Chapter 800 Invasion? No, not an invasion. This, in the command center of Earth, a burst of surprised discussion suddenly sounded. Point. Obviously. Point. LV Yongchang's orders and words just now made most of the researchers present confused. Point. Only those researchers who understood this data war nodded thoughtfully. Point. Among them, Mo Xiang and others were naturally included. Point. Mo Xiang carefully checked the data in the holographic projection, as if he had discovered something, and his originally frowned brows slightly relaxed, and nodded in agreement with LV Yongchang's words. I understand what you mean. 10's behavior is indeed a bit strange, he gently said. This does not look like an invasion. In my opinion, this is more like a flash of inspiration flashed through Mo Xiang's mind. Assessment. Just like the previous assessment. LV Yongchang heard this, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, if you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have noticed that this behavior is indeed like an assessment of human civilization. It's just. Mo Xiang scratched his head in confusion. I don't understand. Shouldn't the assessment have ended long ago? Why are we being assessed in this way? This kind of attack without any signs is very dangerous. Too unreasonable. LV Yongchang pondered for a moment. 10 is just a weak artificial intelligence. We need to think about the problem from the perspective of weak artificial intelligence. Obviously, some of our behaviors met the conditions and triggered this assessment. As for the specific conditions, why did the other party use such a dangerous method to conduct the assessment? That's what 10 has to ask. After the words fell, the Zero Control scientific research robot that stopped attacking sent out an electromagnetic wave message. After the electromagnetic wave message was sent, the data stream from 10 began to slowly recede. Finally, under the gaze of everyone, it left the scientific research robot that served as the battlefield point at the same time. An electromagnetic wave message was sent. The information contained a lot of content. This was almost the most talkative one. Since human civilization entered the ruins, it first apologized to the enraged civilization for its previous behavior, and then explained in detail why it did so. As LV Yongchang guessed, it was indeed the behavior of human civilization that met the preset conditions of 10 and triggered this hidden assessment. There are 3 preset conditions in total. First, the main body of the civilization entering the Empire's mother planet fortress must be silicon-based creatures. Second, the civilization is a friendly civilization and does not pose a threat to the Empire's fortress. Third, the civilization follows the basic principles of equal exchange and equal transactions. Looking at the white text and the holographic projection, LV Yongchang's face became strange. Ahem. Is this really talking about human civilization? He felt a little embarrassed. It can't be said to be exactly the same. It's simply irrelevant. Silicon based. Sorry, humans are carbon based creatures. Friendly civilization? Enraged civilization has something to say. Equivalent exchange, equal trade? Well, when they can't win, human civilization does follow this basic principle. As for why such a dangerous method is used for assessment, according to 10's explanation, according to the information sent back by the Empire 150,000 years ago, this is the standard assessment process of the Silicon Alliance. Under the restrictions of the laws and rules established by the Empire, it will not actually invade the main network of the enraged civilization. In other words, even if Zero fails to resist 10's invasion, human civilization will not suffer any damage. The sudden assessment without any signs is also to better test the enraged civilization's ability to respond to emergencies and the development potential of civilization. Yes, it is the development potential of civilization. 4. Silicon-based civilization, the ability to control data flow is innate. And this has become the best means to assess the potential of silicon-based civilization, without a doubt. At least, that's what the 10th Empire thinks, and the assessment performance of human civilization has far exceeded 10's expectations. According to the information provided by 10, the assessment standard is set based on the plan sent back by 10th Empire 150,000 years ago and its data control ability at the 5th level civilization. As a weak artificial intelligence, its data processing ability is certainly not as good as 10th Empire. The way to make up for it is naturally to stack computing power. Therefore, at the beginning of the assessment, the computing power used by 10 far exceeded the computing power standard of the 5th level civilization, but the comprehensive strength of the invading data flow was still within the framework of the 5th level civilization established by 10th Empire. But soon 10 found something wrong. The enraged civilization reacted very quickly and built a series of extremely strong firewalls in a very short time. After completing these basic operations, the other party even began to implement reverse invasion. This further triggered the assessment mechanism of 10. So, the computing power it called up climbed all the way, and the assessment standard also jumped directly to the ordinary 6th level civilization standard. But the computing power called up by the other party was also increasing, and the offensive means also achieved multiple evolutions in a short period of time. Zero upgraded his own offensive means in real time according to 10's defensive means. Just like that, the positive cycle was realized. The computing power called by 10 became higher and higher, and the intensity of this assessment even reached the entry assessment standard of the silicon-based Alliance, that was an assessment of the 6th level silicon-based civilization, just as 10 was about to call for higher computing power sources. The enraged civilization gave up the attack and sent it an inquiry message. This assessment was also forced to be interrupted. But the assessment results have already appeared. Human civilization, no, enraged civilization has thoroughly demonstrated its development potential to it. So 10 began to execute the next stage of the program and extended an olive branch to human civilization. Invite us to join the silicon-based alliance. Yongchang looked at the holographic projection and looked at the researchers around him with a strange expression. It is normal that 10 cannot find the true face of human civilization. But that group of advanced silicon-based civilizations at level 6 will surely be able to easily unveil them. Called enraged civilization. This is just a small matter. The biggest problem is actually with 0. According to painting the ban on level 2nd, artificial intelligence is widely spread among all advanced civilizations. If this is discovered by a group of advanced civilizations, thinking of this, Yongchang widened his eyes and took a deep breath. This is really a big deal. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.